liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Denley.
Here.
Councilmember Shute.
Present.
Conklin.
Here.
Tomato.
Here.
Toots. Here. Shorten. Here. Yes.
Also with us this evening, our municipal clerk, Jane McCarthy, Borough Administrator Ted Ehrenberg, Borough Attorney Fred Semro, and our Borough Auditor, Peter Lurch. This is an official meeting of the governing body of the Borough of Bloomingdale on January 4th, 2012. Public notification of the date, time, and place was faxed all over this meeting posted at Borough Hall. As per State Fire Code, I am acknowledged to require there are 2 emergency exits. The main entrance which you walked in through, and the secondary exit to my left. If an emergency should arise, exit through the doors down the stairs and out of the building. If anyone has questions on that issue, please raise your hand now. Item 5, there right now is no need for an early executive session. Item 6, is there any motions for removing an item? Item 7, the motion to open early public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak to an agenda item, please come up, state your name and address for the record.
Seeing no one?
State agenda item, state your name and address for the record, please.
I want to make sure that that's on.
What topic?
We wanted to talk about the new place for the,
Recycling center?
yeah,
It's on the agenda.
is that here?
Yes, it is.
My concern, Leonard Dale revamping. My concern with that is that we bought that property next to the DPW yard, and it sits there. And in the paper, I see no notification of anybody saying anything about that. With all that property that sits there, why do we want to spend that money to do that when we have that piece there that we can use for that? And the other part of that same thing, I didn't talk to Al, but one of the main reasons why you're having a problem with parking back there is because of the entrance way for the recycled material. If you take a look at that, when you drive straight in, where the gate is there, we should make the road for them right straight ahead and up on the top. That would eliminate all those trucks going around, which blocks plenty of the parking area for that. It could easily be done by, I'll say, 6 trees taken down there. I don't believe that there's water line pipe, storm pipe there.
But
There's back a little ways.
There are wetlands there, though.
No, we're not touching the wetlands. Right straight ahead, there's no wetlands. That's where they are working on the top.
The base of the landfill are wetlands. On the curve of the driveway, you're saying come in off Union, the curve goes straight, you're saying, up to the landfill. Correct. Yeah, that's all wetlands in that little area.
You come in off of Union Avenue and go straight ahead. It's a big pile of dirt is where they're working.
Correct.
Take that and make a slope there, and it goes right into the thing.
Right off to the right-hand side of that.
No, right inside, straight in. There's no
Straight in, if you go straight and don't make the left and go off the road, that's wetlands.
There's a pile of dirt from the place
There's a
to
small
there.
creek there that it runs
No,
under
the
the
creek
road.
is behind that where the pipe that takes all
So your
that
suggestion, okay.
goes down. So, you get that guy with his bulldozer and cranes and everything, tear that stuff down, that would stop all those trucks from having to go completely around, back up and take in Al's area for more space. Besides that, like the other part I said to you, where the police station was supposed to go, and there ain't no right that we can spend that kind of money to revamp that building. But I'm sure we paid for it, or we're paying for it right now. Am I right?
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
Is that right, Ray? We have to pay on that?
I haven't gone through all the bonds, but
Yeah.
we either bought it on a bond or, yeah.
So for it to
there's
just
no-
sit there, or just to sit there doesn't make any sense. If you look in the backyard of there, how many tankers do we need space for? 3? Al? 3 of them?
9 dumpsters? No.
Yeah, how many? 9 dumpsters.
Big dumpsters on the compact.
What 9 dumpsters that you're going to take that you have on here now? Adding?
Commingled newspapers, bottles, cans, aluminum, white metal, e-waste. Batteries, oil.
Now you're talking dumpster for oil and dumpster for batteries.
We have one for the batteries now. You
How
can't
many-
leave it out for DEP. Gotta be covered. That's
The
what-
oil tank, you want to move over there too?
Where you put it?
And buy that building, you got all that property there. Tear the building down, we're gonna have the building sit, they're gonna tear it down anyhow to make it for the police
It's
department.
not my fault.
Well, I know that, I don't want it. But I think that, I don't know if you council guys have looked at that part of it, but make that entrance that way. And then there'll be no backup, if you just park there, and you can go right up on there. All it is loading that dirt oil that they've already stacked up. Push it right out. That property, and I would talk to the guy that's in charge of that, because that may be a better way for him to have access both ways there. Where now he has to come in now the other way and back down in there, when he pulls up there, it'll be 100% better. So just talk with him. I think it's a good idea, and I don't like to see that over there for all those dumpsters. Why are we expanding upon more dumpsters when we haven't done this in 15, 20 years? What?
That's what a recycling yard does, it brings revenue.
Mr. Dale, the theory is a recycling center, not to compare to what we have now, where residents can bring on Saturday their own recyclables.
Right.
This is to enlarge that operation to a full recycling center with 9.
You're going to do towns then, other towns?
That would be the plan.
Why not take that building down and do that?
Okay, on that issue, the concept to date on doing it where it's proposed is because the cost to do that is less than $21,000 to turn that into a recycling center. In order to retrofit DPW and/or the potential police station building, the overhead cost to do that would be quite a bit of money. Regarding the potential police station building, which was purchased before most of us that are here now, I'd rather see that back on the tax rolls and/or become a police station before we knock it down to make a recycling center on the growth corridor of Union Avenue.
Why would you want that?
Again, I would either, before I would knock it down to have it on the growth corridor of Union, I would rather see it become a police station and/or back on the tax rolls. If the borough someday decides they're not going to use it as a police station, I would put it, my recommendation,
No,
put it
I
back on the
understand.
tax rolls.
But I think if you talk to Fitzpatrick, in one day Fitzpatrick could take that down. That building down, you'd have this whole area and touch nothing.
But if there were,
It doesn't take nothing.
but if someday the town was to actually put a police department there,
There's where the police department should be,
They
right
would-
over next door, an extension to that. We don't need another $2 or $3 million there.
again, this governing body is taking no action in that direction.
Well, that's why I'm talking about
In the
it
near future.
now. That's right, I agree with you. If anything, they need an addition over here, we bought a building over there, which I don't know what you use that for. The house next door, what do we use that for?
The construction office.
A big two-story building just for...
The second floor is entirely storage for borough documents.
Yeah, police department.
No, the trailer is police department.
But anyhow, the addition could be put there with no trouble. But they take and leave that there. I tell you, Fitzpatrick could take that down in one day.
But if, again,
And you've got the biggest area, and everything is close together, the DPW and the recycling center. I didn't realize we were making a center.
that's the
So
concept.
that, and the entrance-wise, better than taking away the visibility and the nice, what the senior citizens have now. I mean, I know I don't make everybody happy with what I'm saying, but at least maybe it's a thought, just go look at it and realize it.
Mayor?
Yeah, please.
Mr. Dale, just one thing, I've sat back there, I've driven back there, I've looked for other spots in town to put the recycling center. One thought that keeps on coming back in my mind, unless we get something started now, which the simple place is, not the best suggestion, is behind here. One thing about dumpsters, they can be moved. Once we get another spot that's more conducive or better, but we can move it. But in the meantime, we're sitting on nothing. We're not taking any revenues in. And the whole idea behind this was to get it up and running by July 1st so we can benefit the revenue now. And I agree with you. Back here, it's not the best spot. But at this point in time, we need to get it started and start to bring monies in without spending a lot of money. Because we don't have a lot of money to spend. I agree with you that maybe someday down there that building can come down, we can make a better recycling center, or put something else there and move people around. We've had that conversation. But at this point now, we need to start bringing revenues in to help us all out.
Yeah, John, I think you made a lot of sense what you said there. Just one other question is, I didn't see it in the paper, but what kind of revenue are we talking about in the course of the year on a recycling center? How much do we take in and what's our,
I'm going to defer that to Ted.
We can only use comparative towns. There's a similar town that has a similar population, and their recycling center is drawing about $65,000.
who's that?
I would prefer to leave their name out at this point. It's a similar town. Similar in population, similar locale, located in the same county, so we're not talking about something in South Jersey. So the thought is that if we had some neighboring communities that wanted to join us, that rate could increase. So I'm of the belief that if you establish a senior, when you establish a recycling center, you could generate probably close to $10,000 a month, which would be $120,000 on average a year. It's good for the town. It certainly would reduce our tipping fees. I think that there is a enhanced spirit of people that are interested in recycling, myself included, because you realize the cost savings. You're really throwing your dollars out by not recycling and not doing it properly. And I think it would help the borough charter some more good spirits for other towns to join us in our endeavors to try to make these towns better.
When you said you're grossing this, what's the net, not the gross?
Well, the dumpsters that Mr. Gallagher is talking about, he's spoken to a company for part of their service. The cost of the dumpster, the compactor, there is no charge to the work.
They don't charge nothing to have it there, they take it away and everything?
They roll in everything. It's all part of the agreement. So we'd have two different providers. We'd have the recycling, like that. We'd have the service that provides our pickup at the curbside with one company, and another company that would provide the dumpsters and the compactor. The only requirements we would have is to hook the electric up to the compactor because it's three-phase. A pad to anchor the compactor because it would shift, and asphalt, you wouldn't be able to anchor it without putting it on a concrete base, and a fence. I don't mean to make it completely that simple, but that's primarily the needs that you would need to establish this recycling center.
Well, I don't think when you talk about, it has to be stationary on the ground so that the compactor works, what you're saying, right?
Right, well, once that moves, it would, you try
But
to anchor that to
that would
asphalt.
be that way, so you have to dig and put a footing in the back in a place where that goes against. And
The specs require a 6-inch deep wire mesh reinforced concrete pad, 12 by 30 feet long.
6 what, inches?
6
6.
inches.
Normally anything like that would have to go down 3 feet because if frost comes and breaks it up. That's only my personal back construction. The only other thing that, after what you just said, did I gather that we're going to go around to other towns and pick their stuff up?
No, sir. No.
I just wanted to make sure that I heard it.
No, sir. The hope is that our neighboring communities and their residents would bring it to us, which obviously would reduce our tipping fees and our expense, because the less we have to put in those trucks and pay to haul it, it's our advantage.
Okay, now, that's going to be open 7 days a week or 6?
6.
6 days. And it's going to have a full man in there 8 hours a day?
What we would do is hire retirees, put them on 4 hours. Obviously, it'd be a minimum wage job, and just somebody there to make sure that we're not, dumping battery acid or paint into the container to keep things swept up, and assist residents that need some assistance. So there'd be no benefits, there'd be no pension, there would be none of that, and the money that would come out of that could come from the recycling trust.
Well, that sounds pretty good, but I still don't like the idea of going there. And that building down there sits here and it costs us $500,000 to buy it, it's sitting here for nothing. Where I think it's, the factory would take it down for nothing. And you could do the same thing because you got all that pavement in the back and you're talking just putting them in a row, nice entrance in and entrance out. That's my own personal thing. And the other thing is about the roadway going in. Please check that out. Talk to the guy. Be 100% better for Al, because I go in here sometimes and get trucks in there and you got these big tractor and trailers there. That wouldn't be good. where all the stuff is for the winter time, the salt and all that, nothing being its way. So it's just a thought, I'd like to look into that.
All right, thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak to an agenda item? Yes, come up, say your name and address for the record, please.
Wendy Connolly, Lake Iosco. I'm just curious about the format of the agenda. Will you present the budget and then we'll be able to comment? In other words, you'll give us an overview first. So in other words, you won't cut us off because it says early comment and then it just says motion to close public hearing. So I'm confused.
This is our public hearing on the budget, so
Okay, but
you will absolutely get a chance to come
Okay,
on.
so you'll present and then we'll be able to comment.
Yes.
The first section says motion to open.
Right. And then
Yeah,
it
there's
just...
a public hearing for the adoption of the budget.
Well, what Ms. Collins' question is, will there be a detailed explanation of the budget prior to public comment?
Exactly.
So we'll introduce, we're going to read the public notice statement, motion to read ordinance by title, and then go to open. So we want to make sure at the item 3, when we do the statement, the explanation statement, that both Councilman Yazdi and Peter Lurch, our auditor, make a few comments
They do that first,
on
and then
top
we'll be able to
of just the
comment.
statement about cap and how much and how, and some answers and what we can do, and then we'll go to public.
And they'll review the budget.
Yeah, we'll do that.
As far as the review of the budget, the auditor's here to go through the budget and review it with everyone. There will be other opportunities for detailed review, line by line going through, and I will be announcing those once we figure out the dates.
Okay, so there'll still be a general comment section
Yes.
after the presentation.
Absolutely. We're not ready to adopt.
We're not adopting tonight, but because we introduced by title, we have to have a public hearing. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes.
Al Miller, 7 Mary Street. Just one thing on the recycling center. From an environmental perspective, I'm assuming, the river in the back, anything, we checked all that, we're good?
We're good. It was used as a parking lot where cars park and oil drips out of them, so nothing's really changed. These dumpsters are going to be mounted there, the containers are going to be full, and because recycling is now of value, they change them out quickly. They don't sit for the weeks on end because the recycling companies make money by moving product, so they won't.
No, but if there is just, I agree with John, it's a good idea to get started, we need money, we're kind of moving one day. It's not the ideal location, trust me, I think it's going to be a mess and sore eyed, but I understand the issue of getting the money, getting the funds. But if there's leaking batteries or an oil tank that leaks, you could end up being liable for this.
Well, I think
Same with the distance. It is a trout stream. I don't know if the state can come along once we get started rolling, and, the state says, well, you're too close, you need to be this far, we can close it down. I hate to see, put out the money, get started, and then, somebody from the fishing game or the wildlife come up and, just a question, that's all. Okay? I'm not trying to stop it. I think it's a good idea, town needs to make money, I hate to see us get started and somebody stop. That's
But the issue is the distance is adequate where there's no permit needed for the DEP.
Okay.
The point of preserve erases, it's already a parking lot, so that exposure of battery acid, oil.
Well, I think it's no different than a parked car compared to a recycling center.
But the exposure though, the exposure exists. Correct. So there's.
Right, but I still think that's up to you. I just asked the question. That's
the
all.
one thing that everybody has to understand,
Yeah.
you open up a recycling yard, you're going to have exposure no matter where it's located.
Oh, I agree. I'm just saying the river is close. You're going to hire somebody to be there 4 hours a day. And you know what, if you read the paper, West Milford has issues with people breaking into their recycling yard and stealing what people have brought in to recycle. You're going to have the same problem with the fact is that people are going to, as well, if somebody's got something that they don't want to keep or they don't want to store, they want to get rid of, they're going to try to dump it. Let it be whatever it is. It could be acid, it could be gas, it could be anything. So if it's not secure, if somebody gets in, they dump it, it's close to the river. I agree with you to have it. I'm just saying is from a perspective, is the town going to be liable if the river gets polluted or if there is a leak? We're going to have an issue, that's all.
Well, in my opinion with this is once this is up and running, we're going to have to have inspections on it. by Al, whoever he decides needs to go there and make sure. So if these things are occurring, they need to be addressed immediately, so we don't run into those issues. This whole process, I believe, that has to be put in place once it's up and running, of what we have to do on a daily basis. Whoever's looking at it, inspecting it. If there's something that's leaking, it needs to be taken care of immediately. We can't let it sit.
No, I'm
I
not
agree.
trying to stop it, I'm just,
I
just
agree.
make sure we're, we
You have to
cover
cover
our
it all.
eyes and cross the T.
Yeah, thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to comment on agenda items?
Leslie Monsies, 153 Rafkin Road. I've been trying not to come to these meetings.
We have missed you.
Been reading in the papers, and I'm here again to ask that you think twice about putting the recycling center where it was. I did hear some comments tonight, there might be other people, other places in town, but I would really like people to consider other areas for it. I guess my concern is more with gardens and the work that was put into those gardens and how beautiful they are. And they are definitely going to be impacted if there is going to be a recycling center with people in trucks and fumes and whatnot coming in. Never even gave any thought to the ecology, but that was a thought also. So it's just, I couldn't sit quiet without putting my voice to that. I was also extremely interested in reading in our local paper about us now thinking of cleaning the streets in Riverdale. And I know we do Pumpkin Lakes. And just have some thoughts. Every time I have asked about exactly what the amount of revenue that we are bringing in, I don't ever get a straight answer. I'm not looking for one tonight, but what I do want to comment on is over the last couple of years, we stopped picking up leaves the way we used to. Obviously, that took a lot of time. I watched it. Completely different than picking up bags. It appears to me that the amount of money we're bringing in by doing all of this shared services, while other towns are outsourcing. You read about other towns, they're no longer having their own DPW. They're finding it more lucrative to outsource. We seem to be the only town I'm reading about that are bringing in. And every time I ask about the amounts of money that we're bringing in, I don't get a straight answer. And just a thought. If you're bringing in $12,000, $20,000, and if by doing that, we're keeping maybe 1 or 2 men working, wouldn't it be more lucrative for this town to cut back on their DPW? We wouldn't we wouldn't be paying benefits, we wouldn't be paying FICA, we wouldn't be paying in the long run. Just a thought, when everybody else is outsourcing, we're the only town I'm reading about that are doing shared services. And I felt the need to voice it this evening.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Under Huntley, 86 Van Dam Avenue. As far as the bond ordinance for the various road improvements, what grants do we have for these improvements?
The bond ordinance for the municipal roads? Well, separate and apart from, what we have to answer your question, twofold. We have grants in town for Wheeling Ave, end-to-end, $280,000 grant. That's been bid, that's going to begin in July. We have a grant for part of Rafkin Road, that was for a Safeway to Schools grant we got from the DOT. Those two are the two that we have grants on. The bond ordinance, which is going to be funded and paid for through the Morris County Co-op, is for Knowles Road, Jeffries Drive, Raff-Min, and Morse Lakes Road from Raff-Min to at least all public roads. There's no grant money on those. Those are being fully funded by the borough.
Why are we doing it that way? Why are we waiting to get some grants or apply for grants and do it every year do so many roads?
Well, a couple of reasons. The borough has absolutely neglected over a period of time any capital improvements into our infrastructure on roadways. And it would, in a perfect world, be nice to do 1 road a year through the DOT, but you'll never catch up to the neglect that's been in place for many years. Furthermore, the DOT, not every roadway is eligible. There's requirements, as I'm sure you know, on linear footage, how many homes they serve, access to schools, et cetera, that, for example, Jeffries would not even be an eligible DOT funding grant, no Grafton.
Northwest Lakes.
Or again, we didn't seek funding for that. This year's round was for Reland.
Wasn't that
Last year's
something
round.
that
And then,
before that?
correct, and then what we're applying for, every year we apply for one, we're going to apply for the balance of Rafkin. Rafkin, end-to-end, curb, sidewalks, roads, same way to schools, is over $1 million. We were just awarded $300,000. So the plan is to phase that project over 3 years with DOT funding. So if we were to do that, based on your statement, we would neglect every other road in town for 3 years, and we're going to rely just on that one funding source. And it's just, we can't do that. The borough has to make the investment.
But you say you're going to be borrowing money, bonding for it, increasing the amount of interest you're going to be paying, hurting the budget in subsequent years. I mean, the last time when you were on the council, you did all these sidewalks, and the town's still paying for those sidewalks.
Well, I believe a lot of the sidewalks are assessment projects, so they're...
No, the sidewalks paving that you did on Main Street, that was not an assessment project, that was paid for by taxpayers, and it's still being paid for by taxpayers. So I want to know why we aren't applying for grants, and why we're just going out and spending. And why we're using it going to Morse Lakes Road, especially since you said that the only reason you're doing Morse Lakes Road is because it hasn't been done for 10 years. Well, I know Van Dam hasn't been done for 13 years, and it's used much more than Morse Lakes Road. And I'm sure there are other roads in town that are used much more than Morse Lakes Road, and that have not been paid for 10 years. Why aren't they being considered instead?
Again, my answer to you is because it's in worse condition than the road you mentioned, particularly Van Dam. Number one, I'll defer to the council because this was a 6-0 vote by the governing body for the roads I identified. And yeah, I guess it is not a wonderful thing that you have to borrow the money to maintain the infrastructure, but again, the neglect for many years, you know, the lack of surplus and on, that there's no other way to maintain our infrastructure at this point in time.
Well, we're talking about infrastructure. How come the water and sewer isn't being taken care of? That's going to be giving you quite a bit of a surplus to take care of the water and sewer infrastructure. But you're sitting on that, not even considering that?
Is that an agenda item?
No, it's not, but you talk about infrastructure, so it has to do with infrastructure.
Well, we're talking about roads that are on the bond ordinance, not the agenda.
So you don't want to address the fact
No,
that...
no, I'll address whatever you want me to
Water and
address.
sewer, which is a great shared service, because we're doing out, and we're going to be doing with somebody else.
I'm sorry, what are you specifically talking about?
Having Pompton Lakes take care of our water and sewer department.
Okay, again, the governing body spoke about that, and has been really only discussions in executive session, which you...
Well, it was
were able to
discussed
share.
prior to executive session also.
Okay, but the details have not been discussed in public.
So how do you know?
I don't know how far I can go on it. I'll tell you, I do not support the concept. I made that publicly clear. The governing body can make up their own minds. It hasn't come to vote yet. You know, when you served on the council and proposed that merger, originally it was a $500,000 savings to the borough. Well, that savings is down to about $65,000. Savings is down to approximately $65,000, not counting in excess of $200,000 that you have to move from utility to current funding. Our current budget is already $600,000 over cap. So I personally feel it's impossible to do that plan because the borough couldn't fund it in the current operating budget.
First of all, if there's more than $65,000 that will be going, that will be used for infrastructure. Secondly, there will be no extra money going into the municipal budget because that was already considered in the calculations.
Okay.
So I think you're just making up your numbers again as you go along, so I know you've done quite a bit. But I really think you should consider the water and sewer, and I really think you should consider not going for this bonding, the bonding until you have grants to do the roads.
I'll just, being that you bring it up, I'll defer, because I think Dieter was in a conversation recently in budgets, and Councilwoman Shortman too. Dieter, on a quick glance, closing the water utility, will some money have to go to the current operating budget?
The discussion that we had at the Finance Committee was, I think the discussion was to see whether or not I would take a look at it, if you were interested in authorizing me to take a look at it, so that I can identify exactly what cost would be eliminated versus what cost might have to be shifted, and to get a true impact analysis of it. But I haven't done any of that analysis, right?
Mr. Yazdi, before I go to Mr. Ember, Mr. Yazdi, is budget share. I mean, you have to have looked at these budgets to see, could there be an impact having to shift money to current operating?
I haven't gone through the full analysis. I have seen a printout of a spreadsheet. So again, I haven't gone through all of it, and there's a bunch of money that has to be carried over to current operating. I think there's assumptions made that you can do away with the cost, but those are, again, assumptions without all the research behind it. So that's why we had the conversation around an auditor doing this work, so then we know for sure if there's any numbers, if it's warranted or not to do such thing. And we asked you to give us a price on how much it costs.
I mean, that a few months ago, I made that recommendation to the governing body. Before, I'm against it, I make that clear. Before the governing body could make the decision to actually do such a merger, you have to have the auditor do the analysis. And I think what I'm stating will be proven. But then the governing body has to choose if they want to fund the auditor to do such an analysis. So I guess that's where we're at.
But you also just want to make sure that it's clear that there is an ordinance on the books that prohibits you from using the water and sewer money to offset any municipal expenses. So if you're using any of the people that are working in the water and sewer department to do DPW work, it should be going to the DPW budget, not the water and sewer budget. Because then you're going against the ordinance, which is wrong. I mean, you just can't do that. So if you're doing that already, then you've got problems. And that's why there really would not be a problem as far as the budget is concerned, because either these people would not be needed anymore because you have a reduction in staff, and then there would be no difference in the budget.
So again,
I think you're going through a lot of assumptions here.
Absolutely.
Before we go through assumptions, before we make it seem like it's a savings and all that, let it go through the
Well,
audit.
I'm also in the water, and there is savings, just to let you know. Thank you.
Let's go through it officially, and then we can pursue it from there.
yes, you wanted to make a statement?
Yes. A couple things for the record. We had this discussion with the budget committee, and I have made the recommendation to have the mayor and council, I'm going to bring it up tonight, to get a proposal from Dieter Lurch to do an analysis. I think before you make a decision that important, we need to have the actual facts before acts comparison. The other concern that I have is that when the gentleman came in from Compton, I asked 3 questions. I'll repeat myself over and over again. 1, how did you get to this price? Could not offer, he says, I just made a guess. That's our estimate of what it would cost. 2, do you have the staff to do this? Oh, I have staff, are you going to add staff? No, I don't know. 3, it's my business, I'll run it. You have somebody that's bidding on a project as important as the water and sewer utility for the borough and has no clue what any of the operational things are, never looked at the pipes, knows nothing about the operation. So how do you make a deal with somebody? You might as well do it over the phone, and they're from California, and they're just going to give you their number and hope it works out. I think that you have way too many things to be considered here to throw this away. The other issue, and I know Linda will get up here in a minute, is that when you say that the borough's going to borrow money to fix our roads, we should wait for a grant. That would be like telling all the people on Van Dam, we're going to wait till we get grants to do something about flooding. We borrowed $1.8 million to make this happen for a reason. These people can't wait any longer for these issues. So we can either do something about our problems and address these infrastructure issues that have been going on for years that have not been addressed. And they have to be addressed. And when we bring it up, there's never a good time to spend money, but there's never a good time not to solve some problems either. Because these problems just keep building and they continue to build. But obviously I don't get a vote, but I highly recommend that we start doing something about the infrastructure issues that face the borough, because they're just mounting. We have a water tank, which will actually get painted on September 17th today. It's gone 18 years without being addressed. How long do you wait to fix your problems in this town?
Well, 6 years, it's cheaper here.
And Linda, you look me in the eye and tell me that I haven't worked hard to try to get that to happen, but because we either had a drought or we couldn't agree on a contract, I'm not the one that says
A lot of things do occur. I'm not
okay, because you said I've been here 6 years,
So you've been here
like I
6
had
years.
something to stop
And
me
there
from
have
doing.
been things going on for every year for those 6 years?
So I'm responsible for what
No, I'm
that,
just stating that there are
well,
always
you make it
issues.
sound like I had something to do.
I'm not making it sound like
Okay, well,
anything.
it does
But
sound.
as far as the water and sewer department, these, our licensed operator also works for Pompton Lakes. They know very well how our pipes are and what our infrastructure is like.
2 years ago, the licensed operator was told by Pompton that he could not hold his license over here because we had too many infrastructure issues, and he left, and we hired somebody else.
So I'm not going to tell you why he really left, because that was something that was discussed in a closed session item with me, but that was not quite the reason why he left.
So, I don't know what your discussion was in closed session, but I know this part. If he was told by the powers to be to give up holding his license here, we brought another person in there, and then all of a sudden, we have this new proposal. They keep talking about it's a shared services. It's not a shared service, it's a contract service. That would be like hiring some other pipe company to come in. They're a not-for-profit business. They're a profit business. It's a utility. They're looking to make money on it. I don't know how you could give up your utility just on a whim that hopes that this is going to reduce your operating
Because
costs.
our guys aren't doing a lot of the work. We're getting subcontractors in to do most of the work anyway.
Our current water and sewer department is now presently renting a mini backhoe. They're doing curb boxes. They understand that they're going to have to get in the game, but in fairness to them, they've never been provided any training, any funding, or any equipment to do those functions. We're working on these issues right now. I didn't hire these people when they've been employed here before, but let's face it, if you're not teaching these people these skills and bringing them along, how are they ever going to learn? I could build you a really nice house if I had really good tools, but if you only got an axe and a chainsaw, it's going to be a little rough. It is the way it is. I don't know how to solve these problems, but they are present.
And as far as the bonding for the flooding, that we are supposedly going to get money back from FEMA. So that's why that was going through. It wasn't that we're just bonding it and weren't going to get anything for it. So to compare that to doing roads is just inappropriate. That's apples and oranges. You said before that why we're bonding for doing the flooding.
There's absolutely no guarantee that we're
There's
going to...
no guarantee, but there's,
So it is the same thing.
no. We know we're not going to get any grants for the roads. We know that. There's a possibility that we make us some reimbursement.
But you're still financing for your infrastructure, true?
I don't know if it's really the infrastructure, it's just a lot of issues that you got people getting flooded left and right. So it's a big issue that you have to take care of.
So failing roads.
We have people on Jeffrey Drive that call up every day and say, you have to do something about these roads. What do we tell these people? Sorry, we're going to hold out and on hopes. We're going to put this on our high hopes account that we're going to get a grant sometime in the near distant future to do something about the road. These people run up the road, damage their car, they're going to be suing the borough. I don't know how you isolate your exposure here, but we have a responsibility to take care of some of these issues. I'd be defenseless right this minute to explain what use
But I
or
believe that if we were applying for more grants
what grants are out there in this
for
economy.
DOT, well,
You
we got the
only
$250,000.
get one a year per town. How many grants are you going to get when you're only basically per
How many
capita?
grants did you apply for?
I apply for every grant or every direction that I get from this council all the time. I'm not your grant writer.
How many?
As many that come up.
And that was how many?
This year? Half a dozen?
Probably 3 or 4 for sure.
3 or 4 or 6, I mean, that's,
You know, let me defer to Councilman Kachush, Conklin, Yazdi, because everyone voted on the roads we're going to be paving by funding it through borough without grants. So can anyone else speak to this? I appreciate it. Because you all voted. You recused.
I want to know, I don't know if this is the time, why are we reintroducing this? We already introduced this, didn't we?
Because we didn't have the debt statement, some of the debt statement when we introduced last time.
Okay, we have to reintroduce it.
The initial introduction really wasn't valid. I had a conversation with bond counsel, and I agree, it's recommended that you start again.
Again, if I may, and again, I want to defer to the council because Ms. Huntley's here stating these things about we shouldn't borrow to fix infrastructure, and it seems to be Ted and I the only ones defending the borough's position, when everyone on this governing body supported it. Councilwoman Shortman, you and I primarily really led this because we said from day one, we need to create lists, a priority list, and get these roads done, and we do the co-op, which by far is the best pricing you could possibly get. And if we don't act now, and we act future years on co-op, the prices are just going to go up. So I'd ask, except for Councilman Schiff, but we did recuse. Whether, please give me some comment.
You have to take care of some roads all the time. If you defer it all for another party to come in and do it, then that party has to pay all the costs. It's a very popular thing to sit back and go, you know what, I'm not going to spend any money on roads.
It's got nothing to do with a party.
Well, it's a political game,
No, it's
and I
not.
get it.
Oh, no, it's not.
Okay,
It is. It's been a political game, and that's exactly
Councilman
what it
Mathush,
is.
you voted yes to do what we're going to do.
I thought Morris Lake was paying for their own road.
We are. Morse Lakes Road is a public road. So get that-
But wait a minute, is the town paying for it, or are we, are you paying for it, Morris Lake's community, or are we paying for it?
Well, Morse Lakes Committee has nothing to do with this bond ordinance. This bond ordinance is for Jeffries Drive, Knowles Road, Raftman Road, and Morse Lakes Road. All town public roads.
Morse Lake Road is a public road.
It's a public road.
It's not
not
a
a private
private road. These roads were identified by us, and we approved to get these roads done. Jeffrey Drive is horrendous.
Okay, then maybe we should cut out one or two and just focus on the ones that really need it.
We all really need it. You voted 2 weeks ago, actually you voted twice already. Once to do it, last meeting to introduce, and we have to reintroduce tonight. So, I don't know, I'm just wondering why we're backtracking now. They're all public roads. They were on the priority list that we all, that's what we first voted on, the list. Everyone unanimously voted on the list, and these are public roads we funded this year. Mark, do you have any comment?
No, I mean, I agree with you. We're going to do something with the roads.
You got there.
And that was the list.
Again, you were a big part of this.
I totally agree with you, and once again, we sit here today having to live with the decisions that were made in over a period of 10 years where we got in horrendous debt. We didn't even have a road list, and as someone who has used Jeffrey Drive a lot, it's just a horror house to me that nobody has addressed this in the past, and I was definitely one who was pushing for a priority list. I think what I'm balancing in my own mind is, yes, I don't know if we need as an extensive road program this year as is proposed in this bond ordinance. Absolutely, Jeffrey Drive has to be done. Because when you stop and look and we meet and we talk about finances and we talk about a budget and we look at each other and say we're paying $1.2 million to pay our debt off. Just to pay our debt off. And we want to do these things. I just think, yes, does Jeffrey Drive need to be done? Yes. I don't think it should include all the roads we've identified at this point. Maybe it shouldn't be that much money. It's very hard to see needs and yet to go out and charge it and have to pay this debt. So when you stop and think about
How
it.
many roads did you do last year?
What?
Last year?
Yes.
Well, Freeland,
No, Freeland's not done yet. Freeland's this year.
let's do this year.
None. Zero. Zero.
Woodward?
Oh, I'm sorry, Woodward by Lakeside.
And
Yes.
started Greenland.
Freeland doesn't start.
We did the road, James Street, I guess it is, we're not doing.
That was the paper road.
That was
How many of
part
them did we get a grant for?
Greenland.
And how many did we go out and do, because it was impossible to just wait 3 years to get one road done, and then wait another 3 years to get another road done.
Approximately 60% of Woodward was funded by a grant, the rest was borough funded. James Hemlock was entirely borough funded.
Okay, so you have to do so many roads every single year.
But you
Is
also
there,
should be
is
using
there a,
grants.
excuse me, is there a 5-year plan in place that says these are the number of roads you have to do? No one's ever done that before.
I know the Democrats have been in charge, they're just the way now.
But it's not about politics.
But my point being that there needs to be a plan. There needs to be a long-term plan, what roads need to get done and how often do they need to get done. So this way you can get to these things. If you come in 1 year and say no, no, no to everything that needs to get done, now you have to do twice as much next year.
But I don't think you're saying no, no, no to everything that has to be done.
That's what happened last year.
No, it
That's
isn't.
why we have an extensive list
No,
this
it
year.
isn't. You're doing really because the bond you got, look, we granted out last year. So what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the bonds for the streets that we did not get a grant for.
So-
If they were done last year, we wouldn't be doing them this year.
But you don't always have to go out, but some of the streets that you can get grants for, you should possibly wait. And obviously, that's not even being considered, which I just don't consider.
Washington Circle is a public road. You're not conflicted. You can step down and make it as a resident. You have no conflict.
Just one thing, Linda, that, you know, I recuse myself, I don't like speaking.
Thank you.
You know, but I recuse. But right now, with the prices they are with the co-op in Morris County, okay, this is an opportunity. Okay, it's cheap. It's an inexpensive time right now to get these roads paved. The other thing is the longer you wait, the more money it's going to cost you to pave the same road, because more damage becomes to the base of the road. We have to, the infrastructure in this town has to start to address it year by year, or it's going to collapse. This is something that we have to take a step forward to do. I understand it's a lot of money, but it has to be done.
Hey, Glenn, just to add to that, we are in a historic low interest rate market. This is the lowest interest rate market in 40 years.
That's what I'm saying, you have to take advantage of it.
If you don't do your major roads this year, you don't want to wait until interest rates go up to 5% to go borrow money to do it. So it's just smart.
Right. And also, Councilwoman, just to recall, in the temporary budget, or the introduced budget, there was $30,000 to be used as so-called deposit money on funding. This project is going to result in about $15,000. 5% is what's needed. I believe the municipal roads will cost us $300,000 through the car. So 5%, $15,000 is what's needed in this year's budget, which had been funded for just these type of capital projects. Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak? We're still in public. On the agenda item. Seeing no one, I have a motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item 8, second and final reading on public hearing on the fiscal year 2012 municipal budget. Again, being that we introduced, we need to have, at the very least, a public hearing this evening, but we will not be adopting because the budget is still a work in progress. With that said, Ordinance 5, 2012, to establish a cap bank, second and final reading, public hearing, ordinance to exceed municipal budget appropriation limits and establish a cap bank. Have a public notice statement, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this ordinance was posted in the municipal building, published in the Herald News, copies available to the public, and a motion may be made and read by title.
And can I have that motion to read by title?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Calendar year 2012 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank.
Before I motion to open public hearing, as stated earlier in early public comment, we stated that, Ray, I'll give the floor to you. You defer to Dieter when you choose to just give a brief analysis of the budget and where we lie before we open to public.
Yeah, we're nowhere near adopting, and I'm going to go ahead and defer to our auditor, because we met yesterday.
Excuse me, Ray? This, my apologies. This is
Ordinance
statement
only.
on the cap.
Then you should,
Got it.
Okay. So Dieter, if you could explain.
to the chair. This ordinance is an ordinance to exceed the cap and bank the amount of money that you didn't use up to the cap. This has nothing to do with the tax cap, so I want to be clear about that. This is a 1977 law where you're allowed to increase the budget by the cost of living increase. So the cost of living increase this year, as declared by the governor's office, was 1%. 1% really doesn't cover the cost of spending in the town. So what the law allows the council to do by ordinance is increase it up to 3.5%. That doesn't mean they're going to spend it, but it would be in order to have a public hearing on just this ordinance, and that's all this ordinance does, allows the cap. And then it would be in order to take a vote on the ordinance and adopt the ordinance, after which the finance chair and myself can make some comments regarding the budget before we open to the public around the
Which
budget.
would be item SG 8B. Correct.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Dieter, very much. Okay, so we gave Dieter just help with that explanation. What we're opening the public hearing now is on the cap bank portion, not the specific budget. Okay. So I have a motion to open public hearing. So moved. Second. Is there anyone wishing to speak again on the ordinance 5, 2012, establishing a cap bank exceeding municipal budget appropriation limits, not the cap we all are familiar with, mostly familiar with. Anyway. Yes?
Like I asked, I'm getting educated. I was told that there's a 2% cap, which did not include benefits to employees, etc. So the cap could exceed 2%. So what does the 3.5% include? Does it include employee benefits and things of that sort?
Again, I'll defer to Dieter.
Yeah, the answer is yes. The cap that you're voting on here, which is the 1977 cap law, includes benefits, Social Security, health insurance.
So
everything.
so it's 3.5 and not higher.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no motion to close, so move. Now I need a motion to adopt ordinance 5/2012 establishing a cap bank. So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmembers Conklin.
I don't quite understand this. Go back to discussion.
Yeah, if Dieter, if you could just recap it.
Yeah, there's a 1977 law. And the 1977 law essentially stated that you can increase spending tied into the cost of living. Now, that law had nothing to do with the municipal taxes. So the original law from 1977 always kept a lid on spending, and it didn't actually cap your tax rate. So the tax rate can go up infinitum, so to speak, as long as your spending didn't go up more than the cost of living. So what this ordinance actually does is this increases it. As I stated, the cost of living is published by the governor's office. For this year, 2012, the allowed increase is 1%. Now, all your benefits would be in the 1%, all your salary increases would be in the 1%. Essentially, everything would be in the 1%, except for a few excluded items, which is really your capital improvements, in your debt service, your library, things of that nature. So that by adopting this ordinance, it actually allows the town to spend up to $286,000 more. Because it's the difference between 1% and 3.5%. That is $280,000. The budget that we're going to talk about after this action takes place does not go all the way up to this cap. I can tell you the budget that was introduced was $170,000 below your allowed spending cap. The town doesn't have a problem with its spending cap. The town is having difficulty with the tax levy cap. And that's a 2010 law, so it's two different laws. So what this ordinance does is it allows you to go over 1%, but you're still going to go significantly less than the 3.5%. And what happens is it survives a 2-year period. So that if next year something unforeseen comes to the town and you need to budget something over 1% of the total again, you're allowed to, and that's why they call it a bank. What you really do is the money you don't use this year, that $170,000, that you're permitted to use next year. If you don't use it next year, then it just evaporates and lapses out. So it's really just a contingency allowance so that if in fact something unforeseen comes up, that you can pay that, and also you really needed more than 1%. You didn't need the full 3.5%, and that's what this ordinance does. But it does not have any impact on the actual tax levy.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table. This is to you, Councilman. Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Toots.
Yes.
Schiffman.
Yes.
Shorten.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes.
Okay. Item 8B, motion
So moved.
to open public meeting budget 2012 municipal budget. Again, there's a motion before we get tonight. Councilman Yasi made that motion to open public hearing.
I will second.
Okay, discussion. What we'll do is we'll open public, before anyone comes up, we'll have you and Peter do a brief overview, and then we'll allow questions. Okay, at that time?
Yeah, I think I just gave my statement right before, but I thought that's what I was really talking about, so I'll just defer to Peter.
Yeah, well, we
He's
have a
gonna go
motion,
over
hold on,
it.
we have a motion on the table, so all in favor of opening this public hearing? Aye. Okay, so the floor, Ray, I'll defer to you again, just give your statement again.
Absolutely, yeah. What I was saying is that we met with our auditor yesterday, and we went through, and we agreed that we're going to come in and basically let the public know where we stand. And our auditor's going to take us through that, so.
Thank you. Thank you, Finance Chair. The, tonight's hearing, the public hearing, is under statute. The borough introduced its budget, and by law it's required to have a public hearing no less than 28 days after the date of introduction. When the budget was introduced, the budget did not meet the 2% tax cap. The 2% tax cap is this law that you've all been reading that really was adopted in 2010, and that essentially now the tax cap takes exactly what it purports to do. What it does is it takes the amount to be raised by taxation, which is the total amount that you're billed for taxes, and limits it to 2% increase with some minor exceptions. The minor exceptions really is only your debt service, your health insurance cost, and your pension cost. So when the budget was actually introduced, this budget was $575,000 over cap. There's only two ways, and under the New Jersey Constitution, you have to be within cap, within this 2% budget cap. We did have a Finance Committee meeting, and there's a recommendation from the Finance Committee, and there's a resolution that was prepared for this evening with several cuts. And what some of the cuts that are in that resolution that I distributed, there's approximately $386,000 worth of reductions. And the $386,000 worth of reductions come primarily in the following areas. Health insurance was really overestimated in the original budget, so that's being reduced by $85,000. The second item is the town underwent a revaluation program, and part of the revaluation program, the assessed value of the town went from $400 million up to $728 million, so that the actual open space tax, what you refer to as the Rose Fund, the actual open space tax generates an additional $82,000 over what it generated in the prior years, so that $82,000 is reflected in the amendment. There's also was a provision in the original budget for prior year bills, and without reopening that whole discussion, we've had many discussions here on that, because of the cap problems right now, unfortunately, it's not a luxury that the town could pay this year, and those bills will have to be paid on January 1st. So, and let me just, and I'm not trying to reopen any issue, but there is money left over in the 2011 budget, but by law that money cannot be transferred after March 31st. So it's really a legal quagmire that really puts us in the position where that has to be deferred to January 1st, because the town is not allowed to transfer the money. So even though the money is there, you're not allowed to transfer it, so you can't pay the bill, so the bill has to wait until the first of the year as a prior year bill. The other large item that that I'm going to, actually the Finance Committee discussed that we're going to put out, and I have a proposed resolution tonight if it's the desire of this council to move it, and that has to do with the accelerated tax sale. For those not familiar with that term, let me explain what a tax sale is and what this resolution or what this cut actually does. The town, people have to pay their taxes 4 times a year. We pay it in February, May, August, and November 1st. You pay it 4 times a year. If you don't have a mortgage, you pay it yourself. If not, your mortgage company pays it for you on those 4 payment dates. For those homeowners or property owners who don't pay their taxes by December 31st, what happens is approximately 4 or 5 months after the year end, I think we just had a tax sale probably a month ago, what happens is, a month ago, what the tax collector does is they publish a list of who owes the town money. And so when the list was published a month ago, that would have been for the year 2011. And what happens is they actually sell those taxes. So what happens, they publish it, then there's an auction that's held in Borough Hall. And different investors will come to Borough Hall. And different investors will go, okay, I have block 1302, lot 6, owe $6,000. The investor will say, I'll pay Mr. Lurch's taxes. And that's what they call a tax sale. Because under the statute, the town has to be made whole. And the town always does get made whole. So in other words, the town really doesn't ever eat a bad debt expense, unless there's a foreclosure or a tax title lien or something to that effect. So all this tax sale does, and I don't want to be so windy, but I just want to give an explanation of what it really is. So rather than hold that auction in May of the following year, that auction would have to be held in December of 2012. By doing that, you can reduce the bad debt expense for the town by an additional $160,000. So when I take those matters and put them all together, that's how we come up with the $386,000. That still leaves the town with approximately a $225,000 gap to make the cap. And the discussion, if I'm free to speak to it, I don't know if you want to say. The discussion is on the revenue side, and we have a $225,000 gap to fill. On the revenue side, two items were discussed. The first item is the imposition of a sanitation user fee. And many communities have moved to this direction, and what a sanitation user fee, it's a one-time charge, a one-time annual charge for essentially for garbage pickup. So that was at least I just wanted to discuss what some of the options were discussed. That was discussed, and then there's also a statute that allows excess funds in public libraries, and this is actually a very it's really a very current issue. The statute that requires libraries to transfer their excess surplus back to the taxpayer for tax relief. And that's another item that was discussed. So between, and really this is a management decision which the council obviously will ponder very seriously, but between those two items, between the surplus that the library has, the excess surplus, and or a imposition of some type of sanitation fee, and they could be mutually exclusive. One is not tied into the other, and it depends on what direction it goes. That gap will be closed, and I'm very confident that that gap will be closed, so that upon action on one of those items, this budget hopefully will be ready to be considered for final adoption. But as far as this evening, before we open the meeting to the public, I have two items that the Finance Committee discussed. One is there was an amendment resolution that the Finance Committee, I think, pretty much, that amendment resolution contains only those items I discussed. It does not contain a sanitation fee, and it does not contain the library issue. So those two issues are not contained in that resolution, because I know that needs considerable discussion at the council level. And if you move forward with the amendment resolution, then I also have another resolution that authorizes the accelerated tax sale. And all that really does is let Trenton know that, okay, that the governing body did approve this tax sale, which will be taking place in December of 2012.
And just to add to those comments, before the sanitation fee and or taking library money, before we even would consider going there, obviously there is the Avalon Bay project that's coming to town, and the permit fees that could generate, that's the big unknown. And all the assumptions, all the discussion was what if that money doesn't come in? So if that money comes in, obviously that bails us out and we don't have to go to those extents, but if it doesn't, what do we do to keep ourselves out of trouble? And those were the discussions.
And also, any other, I know there was, Avalon Bay is a potential, two issues Dieter raised that, again, if the governing body chooses not to go in either of those directions, Avalon Bay, again, is an unknown, I mean, it could be close. Were there other options? Was any of the Rose Fund thing taken into consideration, or?
There was a discussion around, money sitting in Rose Fund that could be used.
What was the committee's?
I thought the money wasn't sitting in Rose.
That was- it
Maybe
was
that
the new-
was, I
I'm
think
talking
it new
about-
money because
Correct.
of the
New money
reeval.
because of the
Could
revale
be
helps
used to
offset.
offset recreation and senior.
Well, you can only, the ordinance is specific to recreation maintenance and projects, so you couldn't fund recreation center. You could fund DPW's time in cutting the grass and anything like that. I think that's where the discussion was going.
Dieter, could you clarify that for us?
Well, I'll clarify the money issue as far as what you're going to apply. That's a management decision, what your ordinance allows.
Correct.
We discussed both areas.
Right.
But we discussed both areas. Number one is we discussed the new money, which is this additional $82,000, which is the only money that's reflected in this amendment. And I want to make that real clear.
Can you restate that, please? Just restate that again.
I will. The new money, which is the additional monies that'll be generated based on the revaluation, the higher value of the properties, is going to generate an additional $82,000. That money has been reflected in this amendment that's before you, the $82,000. Then, when we were just, go ahead, Linda, please.
Does that mean that we can use that money to finance the recreation?
Well, that's to management based on ordinance. The money's there. Now,
Well, that's my question.
Town has to
I
decide
understood
how it
that we
can be
could
used.
take the budget, the chunk of the recreation budget,
Yeah.
and use it for the Rose Fund. That's what my question is.
Well, that's not a Dieter question because it's determination by the ordinance. We have an ordinance that
Then
says
it's
it.
attorney.
And Fred can review that and get back to us, but if it's in there, you have. But I know the ordinance pretty well.
Yeah.
The Rose Fund can only be used for open space, acquisitions and maintenance there of open space. And it can only be used for the projects and recreation facility maintenance. So you cannot offset the rec commission's budget of $20,000, whatever it may be, to run their programs. You can't use the Rose Fund to run programs.
I can just read.
Yes,
It's the purpose of the Rose Fund shall be utilized by the governing body for the following purposes. A, to finance the maintenance, improvement, and/or expansion of public recreational facilities. B, to finance the acquisition of land and/or development rights in land, the appraisal of such land or rights in lands, and other items of expense accrued in connection with the acquisition of land. To finance the down payment required to issue bonds and/or notes to raise capital for public recreational facilities and open space preservation projects. D, to finance debt service in connection with the issuance of bonds and/or notes to raise capital for public recreational facilities or open space. And also this year, you amended this to include for Blue Acres type acquisition.
So we can use this to pay down the bond for the flood.
Well, the goal of the amendment in Dieter's resolution, or presented resolution, is to affect the 2012 budget. So there's really no impact for that flood in our 2012 budget. What it can be used for in 2012 is to offset, for example, DPW payroll for a portion of their maintenance, 2 fields, and the like.
That's right.
So now, Dieter, not before we go to the public, because the public's going to ask, I'm sure, ask this question too. You presented this resolution with these amendments, including, again, the tax sale issue and the Rose Fund as a help, still leaving us about $200,000 over cap. Does this amendment have to be acted on this evening?
No, no, but let me just go through procedurally, so you just understand. This amendment is going to require a public hearing on this amendment. So it does not have to be acted on this evening, but if you defer it till the July meeting, then you will not be in a position, then if you, and you can take action in July, but then understand that you'll have to have a public hearing on that amendment at your next meeting, which is probably August.
Okay, right.
It does not, go ahead,
We're
man.
probably gonna have more another amendment besides just what's in this.
Oh, you can have multiple amendments.
I mean, this.
You can have 5 or 6 amendments, I mean, honestly, multiple amendments.
Even with this amendment, we're 200,000 over cap, so we know there's gonna be another amendment to bring us to cap.
Right, but let me make this comment. That's absolutely correct. This amendment only contained the items that I thought there was a consensus of the Finance Committee.
Correct.
And this amendment requires to be advertised. The other 3 items that were discussed by Finance Committee would not require a separate advertisement.
Okay.
And that's why I separated them.
Okay, great. That makes sense now.
Yeah, and that was the logic behind it.
So if we introduce to advertise our public hearing on this amendment at our July meeting, and then make other ones that don't require such, when we, do we need to reintroduce or just go to adopt one?
No, you would be in a position to actually adopt it in July.
Okay.
Yeah, you would,
If those other matters are resolved by that point.
correct.
Okay, good. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for Dieter? Yeah.
Just for the record, I'm completely in support of Dieter's actions here
Yeah.
on those 2 resolutions to move forward.
Yeah.
Because they just make really good sense for us in our current situation.
I agree. Any other council persons?
I mean, going back to it, we were 575,000 over cap. There is no pot of gold out there. So we're looking for every which way to bring in money into this year to offset that 575. Like the tax sale that would normally happen next May, pulling it forward to this year helps offset that cost. The extra money that ends up in rows, apply it to reduce your cost. That's where we're going with all of this. So it's a better understanding. It's not that, hey, we were looking for this, it's where we are.
Thank you, Ray. Dieter, the item just for authorizing accelerated sale, that has to be done prior to the resolution of the amendments?
No, by statute, it has to be done prior to the adoption of the actual budget. But if the council is going to move on the amendment, Trenton won't approve the amendment without this accelerated sale being adopted prior to. And that's why I had that prepared for tonight.
Which is fine. So if we are to take action, we should move the resolution authorizing the accelerated sale and then
First.
move the resolution.
That is correct, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before? We're already open to the public, so there's no action to be taken there. So now I'll defer to the public. Anyone wishing to speak to the 2012 budget as it is right now, please come up, state your name and address for the record.
Al Miller, 7 Mary Street, Bloomingdale. Just a couple questions about the capital projects for 2012.
Yes.
If I understand the budget correctly, and I mean, Ray, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess our total revenue is about $10 million a year, give or take.
It's shy of that. That's what
Okay.
the 575.
Now, our total debt payment is close to $1 million, close to $1 million a year. Is that normal for a town to be about 10% of the total growth?
Your total debt payment is $1,244,000, which is about, and I only make the point for a reason, because I think the question is a very timely question, and very relevant question. $1,244,000, the total budget is $10 million, give or take, so your debt service is about 12% of your budget. The rule of thumb throughout the country, and this is when the rating agencies, Moody's and Standard & Poor's, evaluate whether it's Bloomingdale or whether it's Santa Fe, New Mexico, is that your total debt service should not exceed 10% of your total operating budget. So I think your question was very relevant. So the answer is Bloomingdale's is slightly higher.
2.5%.
Yeah, 2.5% higher than what the recommended upper level is.
Now, I just want to reference the capital projects here. Now, if I understand this correctly, total capital projects for 2012 is $4,035,000. Am I pretty close to that?
That's the list of all identified projects
Okay.
throughout the years. It's kind of like a pending list, if you will, so it's not a true
No, I'm just curious. when I-
project list that's gonna happen this year now.
Okay. Okay. So a good part of it's gonna go away?
All of it's gonna sit there, it's just gonna carry from year to year to year.
Okay, so this hasn't been actually put into the budget for 2012?
Exactly.
Correct. No, just curious, what is the total, if we're paying $1 million, $1.2 million in revenue, or total revenue, what's the total debt of the town? How much are we in debt?
Total debt of the town is $11 million.
$11 million.
Under the statute, the town's allowed to borrow 3.5% of its equalized valuation, which is a rule of, that's not a rule of thumb, that's a statute in the state of New Jersey that every town and city can borrow up to 3.5%. 3.5% for the borough of Bloomingdale is $33 million. So Bloomingdale's slightly over 1%. Its indebtedness of $11 million is slightly more than 1% of the equalized value of the town, which is probably fairly typical for a suburban type town with this kind of population.
I was just curious, looking here, I mean, looking at $4 million, like you said, it's a wish list, but there's a few items here, I'm not gonna go through and take everybody's time, but I just think the time we're talking about. I agree with having to fix roads, bad roads gotta get fixed, but I think that everybody needs to be reminded as far as what the budget's gonna be next year. And whatever we do look for capital projects to be carried over, because if I understand this right, we're gonna approve these in 2012. We don't actually pay for any of these capital improvements until 2013. So my concern is, whatever put on the capital project for 2013, everybody needs to know, we're not gonna pay for them this year, but we are gonna pay for them in 2013.
Yeah, this you're looking at, it has like a police station for $1.5 million.
There's a lot, there's,
It's not gonna- it's
DPW
not gonna
tools, $250,000.
Right, it's not gonna
There's improvement to municipal facilities, $300,000, 1.5 for a police station retrofit, and another $300,000 for a recreation center, Glacier Field. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff.
These are things that were identified.
Oh, I'm sure it's
Needs of the
fine.
town.
But they've been in that same list for probably 10 years.
Have they?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I think the biggest one on the DPW is the generator, which you do not have. We lose power, DPW yard loses power. But still not being funded, but that's pretty neat.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing, yes, please come up. Same name, address for the record.
Leslie Muncy, still at 153 Rafkin Road. I hope not for much longer. The sanitation charge, give me a break. I mean, is this serious? I mean, with the taxes that we all just got increased, I live by myself. I live in a cape. I mean, I pay a minimum water charge. I pay over $9,000 in taxes, and I put out one bag of trash a week. One bag. I mean, I go up and down the roads and I see the sidewalks full. I mean, if this is something that you people are going to consider, I hope you do it by bulk and not by household, because to put another expense on it, I mean, this is just, I don't know whether to laugh or cry at this. If I picked a meeting to go to, I'm telling you, I picked a great one, because this definitely has to be rethought at this level. I understand the problems with the monies, but
If I may, Ms. Munson, the auditor's function is to advise the governing body on suggestions on how we can get the cap. And this was just one of his suggestions. Again, the governing body as a whole hasn't even had a discussion on the issue.
well, I heard at one time too that there was never going to be a recycling center by the gardens in the scene, and now 2 years later it's here. So I don't, the fact that it's just a discussion, I am putting it out there. I think that this council, if it ever comes to light, had better give this some heavy thought. And if it ever comes to light, I don't think it should just be per household. Maybe there might be some way it could be addressed by paying for white metal and certain other pickups. But this one just floored me. Getting to the Rose Fund, I see that it almost doubled. Maybe it's about a little bit 80% or something, it increased. I think we're paying 2%. Is there a chance that we could have some sort of a referendum where we just decrease it? I know that the public voted for it at a 2%. Could we put it back up to bring it back to the 100,000 by doing 1%? Would that have to go to a referendum?
It would.
Would the council consider doing that? I mean, it's just a thought. if we could put it back to where it was, because we almost doubled in what our evaluations were. I didn't check the budget this year. As I said, I've been trying very hard not to be involved, but I just was glancing the summary. A couple of things that actually jumped out at me. The summary of appropriations. Total number of employees. In 2011, there were 98. 2012, we're anticipating 83, but we're increasing it by $480,000, and it's less 13 employees. Does anybody know what I'm talking about here? Anybody have that summary in front of them? Am I misreading this?
Looking at it as well, I'm not sure about the 90.
Do you see what I see?
Yeah.
She has the
I mean-
advertisement. I don't have that.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if
I don't have the advertisement in front of me. Is that what you're looking at?
I'm looking at summary of appropriations, Mr.
Yeah,
Lynch.
that's an advertisement.
Well, let me tell you, somebody just glancing at it, and I haven't looked at it,
No, you're
I
right.
think it really needs an explanation. We're going down 13 employees, but increasing that line by $480,000, according to this.
Yeah, I don't believe the 98 is correct.
But this is what you're giving the public to speak.
I agree.
I mean, I don't have anything,
You're picking a good one.
I mean, it jumps out, doesn't it? Isn't it kind of,
You're right on.
Great, looking for that, do you have a comment on it? Or Peter, do you have a
I'm
comment on that, or-
looking for last year's, which I believe it would show you that we were at 81 or something. It was over. It wasn't 98 going down.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the comment is. The salaries are $3,846,000 versus $3,807,000, so they're up $39,000. What is the, I'm not sure what the issue is.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right, I mean, Swansea, if you go back, Peter just made a statement, I think he addressed your comment.
Yeah, I don't
well, it
understand.
appears the council members didn't have this information.
You know, I'm saying
I
that
picked it up from outside.
the salary budget is up $39,000, so I'm not sure what the issue is.
So it's a mistake, maybe?
No, I'm not, no, the salaries are not a mistake. Oh, no.
No, what she's referring to, this was put outside.
Yeah, and I have it, so I'm not sure what the question is.
It shows
Number of
that there was 98 in 2011, going down to 83, but the cost, and I think she's looking at the total here, the costs have gone up.
Oh, well,
Right.
let me comment to that.
Yep.
There's no relation between the total $10 million budget versus 9.6, that $400,000, because the bulk of that is non-salary cost. The salary costs are only up $7,000. The salary costs are $3,846,000 versus $3,807,000. So we're only up $39,000, and that number is accurate, I can assure you that. And that can absolutely occur because if the reduction in personnel, and I'm not familiar with who specific people are either part-time individuals or lower-paid individuals, and then you have contractual obligations for your police department and your full-time positions. So the actual total salaries can actually go up, even though the number of positions are reduced.
And that's just one other comment I want to make. About 2 years ago, when, it was either 2 or 3 years ago, when there were a lot of contracts that were approved, and they were approved for salaries in the excess of 7.5%. I got up here and I spoke to, this is going to come back and bite us in the years to come. Well, here's the year to come. And as much as it's not going to help me to say it, but I need to. Told you so. Thank you.
Well, again, I don't think you told anyone that's sitting with her.
Yes,
so.
I did.
On the governing body?
It was spoken to at, I don't really remember who was here then, but I do know that it was commented on, that you cannot raise salaries 7.5%, and it was going to come back to bite. And here's the time.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
I just want to address your comment that nobody up there,
Just state your
and
name.
that we have Camden Avenue,
Yes,
that you also said at that meeting that you thought the contracts were great, you never disagree with them.
because, you're talking about DPW contract? Yeah, because it was not 7.5% increase.
Yes, it was.
But I was not on the governing body. It was not.
You thought it was great.
Wendy Conley, Lake Iosco. Last last year, you were talking about hiring an additional police person because you were down revenues, 250,000. Did you hire a police person?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so that should increase your revenues minus his salary and whatever. So I have the statements here. So is that included in the budget?
The state doesn't allow us to anticipate revenues. I believe that was an item that was identified that we could.
That's correct, Councilman. Yeah, the state won't allow you to anticipate more than you actually collected last year, even though we're going to collect more, and that'll go to surplus, and then hopefully help you out in 2 ways in 13, because you'll have a surplus, and you'll also be allowed to use a higher number. So that may be a good thing in rebuilding the surplus.
But by that hiring, our revenues are back to par. Ted, right? I mean, we're back to the numbers we thought we would be at. We just can't anticipate as a revenue in 2012. It's only based on last year.
I only have the summary, I didn't have the exact breakdown on everything. I'm going, and it was glaring to me also, the point of was the number of employees was radically reduced. In the local tax for municipal purposes, is it correct on my part for assuming from 6.9 billion to 7.9, that has to do with the revale with the additional taxes that'll be collected?
Well, that's going to be reduced tonight if the council moves on that amendment, because the amendment actually is going to reduce that number that says 7,953,000. That new number will be down to 7,567,000. So that'll be reduced substantially when action is taken on the amendment, and ultimately it will have to be reduced once again to get into cap.
That's a glaring difference, though, then, if that's the case. I mean, originally, you're showing up as 1 million, now you're showing up as a half a million.
Yeah, that's correct, because when that budget was introduced, it exceeded the cap by $575,000. So that number eventually will be reduced by over $500,000.
Now, on the taxes that are being contested,
All right.
is that also included in these figures or not?
The taxes that are being contested are funded through what's called the Reserve for Uncollected Taxes. And that is, and that's also reflected in the amendment. And the amendment will provide in the Reserve for Uncollected Taxes, bear with me 1 minute, $170,000 to absorb those contested taxes.
So this amendment, where it says a 3.5 amounting to 238,000, that number is the number you want to back into? Or
No, that has nothing.
Okay, I was just...
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. That has nothing to do with this.
Now, how many foreclosures that you're going to resolve do not include the new foreclosures that are going to come in this coming year, correct? The ones you're going to resolve are for the past ones.
What do we resolve?
You're going to, for tax sales, How many foreclosures do you have currently that are not going to be in the tax sale area?
Well, that's two different unrelated. They're not unrelated, they're related, but that's two different questions. The first question, it's not foreclosure when the auction is held. The auction is held to pay your taxes. That is not a foreclosure. So to answer your question specifically, the tax sale would only be for 2012 taxes, because the 11 was just sold a month ago. As far as foreclosures, I don't know if the town's in the process of any foreclosures. I'm not privy to that, so I'm...
No, we have a small foreclosure stand size. We're deliberately foreclosing to save this kind of tax. I'll defer to Barbara. I mean, not to put you on the spot, Barbara, who's our tax collector. Question from Wendy is, do we know how many houses we have in foreclosure?
We don't, the foreclosure, we don't really, besides the municipal liens that
Right.
you're speaking about, we have no idea. Foreclosures don't really come through our office.
I'm just curious to see what the state of the affairs is in Bloomingdale. Is it improving or is it declining?
Again, we don't have a record of
We
that.
don't
unless
have
the
record
house
of that.
is
That's really
foreclosed.
through the banks of the people who own the houses.
Okay, now, on the bottom part of the summary section, there's an operating expenses. It's showing 3 people are making $389,000.
There's allocations there as well. So,
I
for
understand
example,
that, but I'm just for that one line item. Salaries and wages is $389,000 up from $363, and that includes 3 people.
there's 3 people in there as well as folks that
Service.
do their payroll, right? Folks that
There's allocations.
oversee, there's
Treasurer's
allocations
part of her
going
income would be
on.
allocated, municipal clerk part of her income would be allocated, those allocations. I mean, the actual payroll for the 3 employees and utilities, I don't want to guess, but I don't know, how round it was probably what, 240, 230, something like that?
For 3.
That's public information, that is on the website.
Okay. Mr. Dieter, or I
Well,
guess.
it's okay. That's all right.
We had many discussions about your contract, and it was $5,000 more than prior bids that were given. I, as a taxpayer, I'm asking you to either lower your contract by $5,000 or to make a contribution to our fireworks display, which is next week. I'm representing us here.
Well, we always support community events, that I can assure
And you
you.
can use it as a tax write-off.
We always support community events.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the municipal budget? Again, which will be amended, and then we'll have a public hearing before final adoption.
Yeah, that's correct. You're going to require, I will have a public hearing on the amendment.
Okay.
At the next meeting.
All right, motion to close?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item D, any action necessary in regards to 2012 municipal budget? Yes, there is 2 items of action. First will be the motion to adopt resolution number 6.11, authorizing accelerated sale for 2012, as Dieter explained. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Tomato,
Yes.
Toots,
Yes.
Schiffman,
Yes.
Shortman, Yasti,
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes. The next motion I need is to adopt resolution 6.12, which is, again, amendment to the current 2012 budget, primarily identifying the 2 issues Dieter raised, incorporating the increased roads fund as a revenue and the tax sale delay until the end of the year, helping us get to within 200,000 cap at this point in time. Do I have that motion?
So moved, it's not,
Okay.
the rose is not a revenue, but
No.
it's also tax.
It's all stated tax.
Right, right,
It's in this amendment.
that's the motion we have.
Okay. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Need a second? Any further discussion? Roll call?
Councilmembers Toots,
Yes.
Schiffman,
Yes.
Shortman, Yasti,
Yes.
Conklin,
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes. Okay. Dieter, I thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, any reports from the governing body?
I attended a recreation meeting last night, and one of the items they like to start is a community project wellness, call it, for any member of the public, children, kids, adults, seniors, anyone that would like to join the recreation group for walking. They will be walking Tuesdays and Thursdays at the Butler track at 7 p.m. starting July 5th, which is the day after July 4th holiday.
Thank you. You should team them up with the Board of Health, because there's a mayor's wellness club, and they do the Weight Watchers thing, and all. You should team right up with that. Okay, anyone else have anything?
Just, John, yesterday the Junior Police Academy, I believe, kicked off. And when we were here yesterday, we had a lot of participation. The officers were here working with the kids, and I believe on Wednesday, they're doing a helicopter fly-in to work with the kids to show them what landing zone looks like. And they get the fire department involved, so the program seems to be going really well. They bring the kids here, I guess they put them in vans, they take them up to the Salvation Army, and they start working with the kids. The program looks like it's going to be really successful. So it's a tribute to the police department to get that started.
Anyone else? The only two items I have are, the League of Municipalities has been lobbying very hard, and the governing body here a few months ago did a resolution to try to reinstate the energy tax that municipalities were receiving that the state of New Jersey has taken away. It's a tax from utilities for land that is, in essence, tax exempt because utilities may rely on them. Municipalities are out to state to seek revenue from them. Our revenue, just to put it in perspective, in 2009, our municipal property tax relief, money we received from this energy tax, was $182,425. 2011, it was down to $75,000. So a loss of $110,000 to the municipality. The League of Municipalities has been lobbying hard. Bill A2290 passed the Assembly and is going to vote tomorrow at the Senate, Thursday from the Senate, and we hope this passes. I don't know if it affects 2012 operating. I'm not sure if it'll be back in place in 13 or not. That's one answer I don't have. But I've emailed our Assembly and our Senator, and I did not hear back yet to see how they're voting on Thursday. But it passed considerably well through the Assembly, so we hope for the same success on the Senate level on Thursday, so I'll keep you informed. The other item is Friday, is our town fireworks, beginning at 6 p.m. Walter T. Bergen. It's a great night out, so I hope you can all be there. And please pray for dry weather.
Do we have a rain date?
It's the next day. Yes. Excuse me. Yes. I am.
I'd just like to say a couple of things about, we had Congressman Freeland-Heiser here
Oh, yes,
on Saturday, and I'm telling you, you walk in the door, and what a job these guys did on this building. It was a little aggravating, they wouldn't let me in on at night to get my mail, but I'm telling you, they did really an outstanding, beautiful job. And our congressman was so receptive and did such a great job, and I was very proud of the people in attendance. They asked excellent questions, and it was really great. And the other thing I attended was the fire department's memorial service on Sunday, which was a beautiful traditional type of ceremony that we have to go back and compliment them on, that they did such a great job remembering the fallen firefighters in the memorial that you can view over by the new firehouse. They created kind of a garden-like with pavers with the names on it. And it was really, you talk about community things, and I complain about spending public events money, but when you do get together with our community people, you do see what a great job they do. And both events were, I think, absolutely excellent. My committee on the Riverwalk focus study met today, and I think Ted will address this also after I do. We have 4 members, and we met today with Paul Domofowski, our engineer, who is guiding us through this, and with Burgess, who are the people that we've interviewed to do this study for us. This is an Passaic County Open Space grant money that we are using to do this study. And I know the people on the committee were very excited about, this getting underway and exploring the potential of this beautiful waterway.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for bringing up the Congressman's visit and fireman's memorial. Appreciate that. Anyone else in the governing body? Professionals, Mr. Attorney, have anything for us?
No, Mayor, we just started the county tax board hearings, and I would just say that the taxpayers were prepared and gave good information, and I thought also the evaluation plan was prepared. There were matters that were resolved and others that were heard, but I thought it was at least the the proper approach. It was a good exchange of information, and that's what it's about. It's ultimately about just fairness and trying to get to whatever is the appropriate value for a property. And that was last week. There'll be more hearings as we go through those, and that's very good.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do you have anything for us this evening? Mr. Amber?
Yes, numerous. First item that I have is that Mr. Gallagher has provided me a price and a lovely picture of a shed that we're going to need to purchase for us to do the spraying for the borough. It's required under the spraying that these chemicals be locked up separate from any facility or any building. The quoted price is for a 7x7 shed for $899 from Home Depot. The mayor and council would need to consider that because we can't store these chemicals anywhere else but in a separate container.
Okay, if I may. It's under $1,250, which was the governing body's resolution on road fund expenditures. It's needed for DEP rules. The governing body authorized licensing of DPW employees to spray our parks and rec. So I don't feel the governing body needs to take action on it. Administratively, it should be done. Anyone dispute that?
I'll second that.
Okay, there's no reason to. I mean, it's
Okay.
under the requirements. Thank you. Okay.
All right, the next item is I have a email from Paul Domofowski. The Bloomingdale de-snagging project will start Thursday, June 28th at 8 a.m. and it will start down by the animal shelter on Grant Lane and proceed to move that project forward and get that done. Next item is the Bloomingdale tank painting, water tank painting project. The return services of Bill Ryan, the special engineer for this project, have worked with Paul Domofowski. The published notice to bidders will go out July 12th. We will receive the bids back on August 8th. We will award the contract on August 14th, and the work is supposed to start September 17th, 2012. We will paint the tank and move forward. So 18 years later, I've been here 6, done.
Ken,
Yes, sir.
one thing on the tank painting, when are we going to do the valve inspections?
Next Thursday.
The Thursday, that's on my list. Thursday will be the interconnect valve inspections.
Sorry,
done.
I'm jumping ahead.
No,
I didn't know if you were going to do it.
we're good. Dan Hagberg, on a daily basis, facilitates a lot of questions and problems and resolves issues. He's come up with 2 suggestions that I bring before the council that I think really makes really great sense. The first is, we have some conversation and some future growth potentials here for the borough with construction. And his memo to me is, please review and advise the council of the building fees that should be changed ASAP. Ordinance 11-1.2 fees, section 9, add D. D would be defined as the fees for a temporary certificate of occupancy shall be $50 and $35 for each renewal of same. We have the fees in there for permanent or certifications or COs for property, but there's no revenue put in there for this fee, and the borough has let that
Temporary
go.
COs.
For temporary COs, has let that go for years, which is a missed opportunity. And I don't normally make the recommendation, but because we have tonight's meeting, we have one meeting in July, and we have one meeting in August, I would at least urge the council to at least introduce by title, and then I can catch up with Fred to get the rest of the paperwork. And candidly, I just got this today, June 26th, so it's not something that...
Do you have the ordinance number?
The ordinance number is 11-1.2 fees.
11-1.2 fees.
And under section 9, add D.
I would just be introduced by title. Add D, 50, and
50
35.
and 35 for
First year,
renewals.
second. Right, I got you. No, I'm under that. Okay, the other item?
Yes. To continue on Councilwoman Shortman's, the committee met with Paul Domofowski, who I think has done an admirable job and certainly facilitated and helped Councilwoman Shortman in her the feasibility study. Burgess sent their representative. They defined a scope of a project in writing, the study area, the scope of the study, the services that would be conducted. I remind the council and the members here from the public, this is funded through a grant, so it's not the borough spending out of its operating or current budget, meetings and everything, and the total price for this service to help facilitate this and come to hopefully some consensus is the total budget was to be $30,000. The background of the analysis was $15,000, and then the goals, objectives, Riverwalk feasibility plan, the final report would be the remaining $15,000.
So the cost is exactly the amount of the grant.
Correct. And that would be obviously paid to Burgess, who is the company that we selected to get our open space in compliance.
We need to authorize that proposal,
We do.
and certification of funds, because it's a grant, we do. And that's currently not on the agenda.
That is not on the agenda.
Authorization to approve Burgess Riverwalk study.
Right. And I received this copy today. I don't want the council to think that, Jesus, he waited till today. Now,
I would never.
okay. Good. We're moving along here. I received today from Burgess another proposal. This one is the community planning and development consultant for the professional planning service on Union Avenue, the redevelopment plan. We authorized $10,000 for the total to do this analysis. Burgess has come back in with a remaining total of $4,750, which between the two of them don't equal $10,000. Right. So I'm asking the mayor and council tonight to approve this so Burgess can move forward to get this done. And this would be for the professional planning services at Union Avenue
Okay.
redevelopment.
Well, item H, we need to, okay, it's on the agenda. Item 2 is on the agenda. Approve professional services. That's on the agenda.
Okay. More good news. I received from Atlantic Environmental Solutions.
This is good news.
No, it's not. Atlantic was the retained consultant recommended by Dombrowski's firm for a company that provides this type of remediation and has a certain certification, which is AESI certification, which our current engineer does not have. I think the long and the short of this is, in 2000, there was a test well put in our DPW. Our current engineer at that time was Dewberry Goodkin, never got addressed. So now the DEP went through all their old records and pulls out that this has not been closed out, and that's why we retain Atlantic. They did the initial testing and they found benzene in the groundwater, so that requires us to put a test well in and monitor 7 wells and 8 to 10 borings in the vicinity of the subject area at 188 Union Avenue. I spoke to Tom Marotti, who's spearheading this project. He says, I absolutely recommend that the borough has to do this. The range of services and the cost is between $17,755 to $18,450. $15. There is no funds available, so I asked the council to declare a special emergency so we can figure out how we're going to pay for this later. If this has to be done, then we have to move forward.
Now, declaring a special emergency does not fund it.
It does not fund it. It puts it on the book so I can look at some options to try to find out how I'm going to fund this. But currently, there's no money operationally.
Ask a question.
Yes, sir.
DEP and the EPA have Supersonic flight funds, cleanup funds. There's grants out there. That's what started the whole thing in Morris Lake.
We don't have to clean it, we just have to monitor it.
Well, to monitor it also, because they put the wells on all
What I think you're on the right track, Glenn. I'm not disputing it. What I think needs to happen is they need to measure how much, what volume, it could become a brownfield. We could could sort this out later, but we're in the
Well, to Glenn's
testing part.
point, remember in Westlake, it was each homeowner's responsibility to do 2 certified DEP lab tests on your own dime.
Right.
And then if it was above the limit, they reimburse you for the test and then paid the carbon filter as part of it. So here again, we're just monitoring to see the levels. So I would suggest, we can declare it an emergency, you're not funding it yet. I would like that to come back to us before we move forward after we find a funding source. If we do, in the meantime, 2 things. Call the DEP, maybe our friend from the old Lost Lakes project, and see, is this a super fun site that we can tap for funding, number 1. Number 2, I'd ask, and I know, Jane, you have a relationship with our former administrator, 2 before you. Because when I started on the council, we monitored these wells. And I had this conversation with you, and I was, we monitored these wells forever. And I could have thought in 6, 7, 8-ish, when I was no longer on, that we had to clean the well.
What happened was, we went through the records of Paul went through the 2000, there was a proposal, I think the price was around $40,000 from Dewberry to proceed with this, and no action was taken.
I know we were monitoring them.
I'm not disputing that, obviously, this is far before my
Yeah, no.
the borough.
Just, okay, all right, so we need to declare it as an emergency. But I still need to hear the funding source before we move forward and ask you to contact.
So all I'd ask at this point is to declare an emergency and let me sort the rest of this out.
Okay. And then, again, Jane, you'll reach out to Steve. I'd like to see if anything rings his bell. And just check again. And then, again, there's nothing on file with Steve that we did. And you'll reach out to the DEP to see if there's any funding needs.
Is there anybody that is on Union Ave that has a well? A drinking water? Or
This is what we have to, I don't know, my guess is there certainly is.
then we should definitely notify.
Well, that's the whole thing, that's what they do for a living. They're gonna lay out the whole program.
So we got to monitor the well.
One last thing. I received contact from the owner of Wilkes Deli. This came up 4 or 5 years ago. Sewer. The gentleman next to Wilkes Deli in that business, their name escapes me.
Sheet, the old sheet now?
The 2 of them are asking the borough to hook to the water and sewer, which is a big project. Obviously, you have to get permission from the county to open the road.
The sewer line actually goes all maple in the backyards of his home.
That's for real.
It would be an assessment project. We looked at this a number of years ago, excuse me, Matt. We looked at this a number of years ago. The problem was, all utility projects are assessment projects. The people affected by the project pay the bill over 20 years. Ask the hillside residents who are still paying the bill. The project was too small in the past. I'm not saying it's not doable, but there was maybe only 6 homes affected. Divided by the cost of the project, made it a very expensive assessment. And that's what killed it in the past. I'm more than willing to revisit this, but when you bring a sewer line in to those 2 businesses, by code, the homes have to tap in. And by code, those homes would have to share in the expense.
My reason for bringing this up, this gentleman came to me personally to ask for our assistance, is that the minute we do this, we have to involve the borough engineer and incur that cost, even though we're not doing the project for them. There needs to be some facilitating by the borough first to get there.
There, on this one, like I feel on the wells, there is absolutely a detailed report on cost on this one. There's engineer plans, there's designs done by Goodkind and O'Day before they became Dewberry. That is a guarantee. The cost will be more today, because I'm going back 2001, 2-ish. And if that's the case, maybe we just have a cursory review by our current engineer of those plans. The issue is, it'll cost the borough nothing at the end of the day because it's an assessment project. The issue is if the governing body is going to vote to do it, because it's going to be a really large assessment for 6 users. It needs to be done. Because the sewer ends at Walnut, and then begins again, like at Jeffrey's, right?
I think there's a piece that comes down to Jeffrey, but I think we really don't pick that up
6 dwellings not tapped in, that's one section by Bloomingdale.
Right.
So I'm all for it, and again, here's what we do. We really need to dig on this one, because there's absolutely, the study's been looked at before Mr. Wilkes owned that deli, it was actually Ronnie's deli at the time.
It was B&B before
Well,
that.
that wasn't that long ago, when the sewers were looked at. And then, have Paul look at it, the engineer look at it, put a cost on it, and then we go to the users. What prior governing bodies used to do is tally, put it out to the residents affected, and see what the feel of the land was. And in the past, it went down like 4 to 2 because of the cost. Although, it's a good idea, because in the long run, it's cheaper than having to put a new septic.
Thank you. I'm done.
You weren't expecting action on that tonight.
And before we move on, there was one item that you and I discussed today.
Keep asking.
It seems like, we went ahead and passed the zero tolerance rule for long grasses out there, for a mess out there, and we seem to have not gone too far on that. And I was educated when I made the call to Ted today. He gave me an update, and I asked him to actually go ahead and give a report on that. Are you prepared to talk about it and just give an update?
I'll get some assistance from Fred here, he can help me along the way. I think the issue is that we have residents, and more than a few residents, that are in disrepair, and certainly their appearance doesn't meet the borough code. The problem's going to be is that we can cite these people, but if you can't either identify the owner or it's in foreclosure, we're back and forth on who's going to pick up the check. In the past, we've taken legal action by going to the people, citing them, going before the council, getting permission to adopt that, and then move forward, and then lead their property going forward. The problem that we have is that the volume of these residents is growing faster than I care to mention, because we could be mowing grass for people in this town or cleaning up their properties every day. And once you get on that maintenance schedule, it's really hard to get off of it. We used to pick up summer help that would help us. We could have summer help do nothing but just facilitate cleaning up properties in the town. The problem's going to be is that until you get legal action or authorization, the town doesn't really have the right just to motor onto somebody's property and start mowing through this grass or picking this up. So these are the concerns that I have, and there's not a speedy way to do this, in my opinion, because these people still have rights, and until you're not allowed to go on somebody's property just because you don't like the color of their fence. I don't appreciate the condition they're in, but there's no easy solution to this problem. I guess that's my point. Fred, anything that
Yeah, property maintenance it does become difficult when you are doing it on a consistent basis. And unless we have something set as to how we're going to collect or replace liens. And the other issue is, I don't want to shower with gloom about this, but if their property is in foreclosure, chances are those liens will be wiped out by a foreclosure. So I can't guarantee you that you're going to collect. Now that doesn't mean it's a reason not to do anything, but I think it's fair to point out there's probably a cost involved that maybe you haven't expected in the past.
But if we have an ordinance that says, for instance, your grass can't be any higher than 4 or 6 inches, something like that, can't we cite people who don't cut their grass?
Mr. Tyson cites them, he goes before the judge looks at him and says, okay, here's your fine. It doesn't solve the problem, it just gives them a fine, because the condition still exists. So we could cite them every day, but it's like you can't get blood out of a stone methodology here. How do you get to the point that these people are going to take this on? Because the last thing the borough needs is more work. That's the problem.
Are you talking about homes that are in foreclosure? Or
I'm talking about any home that does not maintain the standards that the borough has established.
I would think if you come and have to pay a fine,
Exactly.
it would give you some impetus to cut your
This is a
grass.
closed session discussion.
Okay?
I think it would be under attorney-client privilege, because we can talk about certain strategies for efficient enforcement.
Foreclosures are tougher. I do think it's worth it for a small investment to keep those properties clean for the neighbors and their own property values and appearance of the neighborhoods. As far as the people who live there, the portion I want in closed session is attorney-client privilege, because there is an enforcement mechanism, and I don't think it's being enforced enough. I've been on the record saying that before, and the actual reports we get show that, there's not a lot of court action, and we pass a zero tolerance ordinance, and, it's not always, you want to try to be the nice guy, but you can't have double standard. You can't have zero tolerance and try to be a nice guy. So you do it or don't. For those who reside in their home and aren't compliant.
Well, can we put this on the pending list so we can discuss it again at the next meeting?
It's forever on our pending list. We'll discuss it tonight in closed session.
And come to some resolutions.
Yep. Anything else, Ted?
No, sir.
Thank you. You all have a copy on your construction report. Item 13, adoption of the consent agenda, approving minutes for regular meeting May 22nd, and approval of a block party on 45 Hilltop Terrace. Do I have that motion? So moved. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Pending business, discussion and action regarding to webmaster. Are we ready to make a motion, Councilman Demoto?
I'd like to make a motion on this. Move it.
So your motion is to hire CityNet as the borough's webmaster? Correct. Based on the proposal submitted and all the things we've talked about for many, many months. Is there a second on that?
I will second.
Any further discussion? I need a roll call.
Councilmember Schiffman.
Yes.
Short. Yes. Yazdi.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes.
Katuch.
Yes.
Councilman Shortman, I'm sorry. You want a 5-minute recess? Okay, because I feel the next topics are going to be lengthy topics.
Yes.
Okay, we'll have 9:05, 5-minute recess. We'll resume. Okay, we will resume at 9:20 p.m. And the item we left off was 14B, discussion and action regarding street sweeping for the borough of Riverdale. At our last meeting, we had this on the agenda. At our work session, there was discussion, there were some councilmen who had additional questions, and I'd like to take action on this tonight to realize their shared service to help offset some of our costs, as we just heard from Peter, we do need. The councilpersons who had questions, have those questions been answered?
I had some questions, and my questions were answered minimal. But we're looking at basically a 6-month period.
Well, for the balance of this year.
Right, for the balance of this year. Well, it has to be revisited anywhere next year, correct?
Well, if the governing body agrees until the end of, approves to the end of the year, then yes. If we approve a 1-year contract, then no, it'll be until July 1st of next year. Bottom line is it, roughly brings $10,000 to offset our operating costs of our DPW. That's a good goal here. There was questions on manpower, how we're doing it. There was questions on cost of material, gasoline, brushes, etc. I know I saw the answers, got the answers, and everyone was to do the same. Councilwoman Shortman, do you have anything additional on this?
Just the way we go about this, I think Ted has said it clearly when we were talking about another shared service. He said you have to do the legwork and you have to have the information. And I think we have to ask too many questions and dig and ask over for answers. And I think what we need is a proposal that tells us the cost versus the revenue that we're getting. And we're sitting here tonight after talking about this. You've probably been talking about it a month. I've been informed of it at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, and about 5 minutes ago we get this street sweeping worksheet. It's just not the way to go about these things. Either we be a committee of the whole, or the committees explore it and get us all the information. I don't think, there's time to actually look at it and digest it and come up with questions when before the meeting tonight, we were asking the people out there to get questions about it. I don't think it's the way to run things. Let's do the legwork before.
Right, we had the discussion last meeting, and I did apologize for
Right.
running forward with this, not having bring it to the committee. We've been through that. I saw it as an opportunity. I ran with it. I brought it to the governing body, and just just to expedite it because of our financial situation. And it's going to bring us revenue to that bottom line between this shared service and Tompkins practically pays half the salary of a DPW employee. So therefore, that lowers our operating costs. That's the goal of shared services. My point is, 2 weeks have passed, and council people have questions, and there's ample time to ask those questions of the appropriate people. So I believe there has been
Did
time.
the shared service committee met? Did they meet?
We've been through this. No, we know they didn't meet.
They still didn't meet. This is our last council meeting.
But John, shouldn't we individually have to go seeking meetings with people to get information? Shouldn't
Why are we going over this all over again?
Because we just got information
No.
5 minutes ago.
5 minutes ago,
Your
I got.
homework was to go
Right,
find
that's
out from
my
that man
problem.
sitting here.
That's my problem. That's the
5
wrong
minutes
way to
ago.
do the legwork.
But that's what you were teaching last time. Why are we talking about this
Six
all
of them
over
should
again?
go and sit and talk to Al about it.
This
Six
is the
of them.
meeting we vote on things. We don't discuss things all over again.
It was never really discussed.
$12,000 a year.
Does this salary and wage also include benefits?
So you're asking me to vote on something that I just received 5 minutes ago. Am I correct?
You've had 2 weeks.
I have 2 weeks,
I don't
but
agree with that
did the
process.
budget, did the shared service committee, did they meet in 2 weeks? Since our last talk about it?
No, we haven't.
Okay, then don't ask me to vote on it.
Have
That's
you known
what
about this
you're
for at least a
supposed
month?
Thousand a month.
Have you known about this for at least a month?
Did you meet with your shared service committee, Ray?
No, because there was no
Okay.
need
Did I
to meet.
get this 2 weeks ago? Did I get this a week ago? I got this 5 minutes ago. I'm tired of this.
And you agreed at the last meeting that you would go seek this information from the man that's sitting in the corner.
I was
And
waiting
you
to
didn't
hear
do
back
it.
from the people on the committee from shared service. And that's what I said.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that the board passes.
Let's do this. I'd ask for a motion to approve the shared service with Riverdale for the balance of 2012.
As a trial basis.
And then we'll revisit.
And again,
Motion's made by Councilman Schiffman. Do I have a second? Second by Yazdi. Any further discussion?
Yes, does this amount include benefits?
Ted was about to speak in it. Ted, you were about to speak on that.
Vacation, sick days, nothing. Doesn't
Right.
include his pension. It doesn't include anything. It says $22.50 an hour. It's all includes plus, actually $13.77 should be for FICA.
Ted, did you have a
27 for fuel, nothing for the use of the truck or
The
anything.
question I have is, if that, we do not do this, does that employee still get those wages? Does he still get his insurance? Does he still get his pension?
Well,
Yes, he does.
And what work
No,
is
it's not
he
true.
doing for the borough?
If he's not doing anything on Fridays, send him home on Friday and then rent the truck to Riverdale or one of their people drive around.
I don't believe he's not doing anything. We're trying to offset our costs by another town paying part of his salary. That's the whole purpose of this.
But the people ask me, why is he free on Friday or whatever day? Why is he free to do this? What are we losing? I believe Al had told me that he does Bloomingdale 2 days a week, and now it'll only be one.
3 days, no, 3 days a week, now it'll only be 2.
Our streets are swept 3 days a week. And I think I had sent an email and asked for the schedule of what streets are done what
Yeah,
day.
the schedule, he goes, whatever streets the garbage is not being picked on, that's the street that he goes on.
So there must be some schedule that he's on every 3 days a
The
week.
opposite of garbage pickup.
The opposite of garbage pickup.
Whatever streets aren't having their garbage picked up, he goes to this street.
But he can't, does he do the whole garbage route that day?
It takes him what, 4 days, 5 days to go over?
To get through the whole town, every street, probably at least a week or a week and a half.
See, this is the kind of conversation you have before you're discussing a vote. That's all.
We've had this discussion where
We have-
well, about the state, that I rely on my department head and the employee who happens to be here tonight, who runs that machine, to tell us it can be done. It can be done for this dollar amount, and the bottom line from my perspective is offsetting our cost of operation. That is purely my goal here, period, okay? It is not about making profit, it's a shared service, it's not about profit. It's about covering your costs, and we're lowering our cost of operation. Councilman Conklin, to your point, you're self-employed. You have 3 jobs already on Friday. someone calls you tomorrow and says, hey, you can make a nice buck and do this fourth job, you'll find time to get it done. Doesn't mean you're not doing anything on Friday. You'll find time. It's a similar analysis
I
here.
don't work that way.
Again,
I mean, so we're gonna get $200 a week, but we're gonna lose a day of street sweeping. So our streets are gonna be, we're not getting anything.
we
We're
are,
losing a day of street sweeping. It takes,
Why don't we
you
just
know,
try
we
it?
are lowering our costs
Why don't we try it and see
to
if it
operate our
works?
Department of Public Works.
yeah,
It
by
doesn't, you suck.
$6,000 a year, correct? But we're losing
No,
a
for the
day.
balance of this year, it's gonna be
But
close
we're
to
losing a day of
$11,000.
street sweeping. We are.
But it's not, we're losing a day, but at the end of the year, the town is going to be done, just as before. So instead of taking the week to complete, it may take a week and a half to 2 weeks to complete. Our roads will still be done. Did you have something?
So we can't
There's a
make
motion on the
any-
table.
You can't make any money. What is the $157 for net gain?
It's covering our cost of operation. All right, there's a motion on the table. Did you have something? You good?
I would, I want to
Guys?
We had numerous conversations tonight about residents that came in and said that it would be horrible to put a sanitation, basically surcharge for the balance of 2012. I speak almost every conversation with every person when we come to the finance of the borough and say, we don't have a spending issue in the borough, we have a funding issue. So, to use the resident, Mrs. Muncie, that was here earlier, who complained that she would be appalled if we put this fee in here, we're running out of options here. And every time we come up with some other funding source that might find a way to put a little money in the can, so to speak, to offset our taxes, we seem to find a reason why we don't like it. It's either in the wrong location, doesn't bring enough money in. So we can just continue to keep doing this, but where are you going to get this money to pay the bills? So you're either going to cut services or you're going to fund these services. But you don't have enough money operationally to do this. So council can either approve this shared service or not approve it, but at the end of the day, where's this revenue going to come from? I can't charge more for this just out of thin air. We have to find a way to pay our bills or cut services. We're so 180 degrees opposed to each other, but we keep having this conversation on every issue, every, and I'm confused.
We won't even pay the cost of the repairs on the machine. We had it for
We
a
gotta
year.
repair it anyway.
If the machine broke, and it was our machine, and we had to have it repaired, that expense would be ours. Use the thought that we would furlough our employee for the day and rent our machine to another town, they break the machine, they will repairs. You don't have any control over how you use your equipment and what the expense, the liability, there's so many other issues that need to be addressed when you get involved in that. We're not in a rental
All right,
business.
there's a motion on the table. Any further discussion? Any roll call, please?
Councilmember Short.
No,
Yazdi.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes.
Toots.
No.
Schiffman.
Yes.
Okay. Next item, discussion and action regarding the recycling center. Again, an issue that we've been talking about for quite some time. Matter of fact, the governing body had authorized Mr. Administrator in March to go seek costs and analysis on doing this, and doing this at the senior center. So this is not a new topic. It was actually a 6-0 decision by the governing body to have Mr. Ehrenberg proceed. He's done the homework. There's a $21,000 cost to get this going. There's a large potential revenue as a result of it. There has been public input about the location, and not being happy with it. And to Councilman D'Amato's point, no one is saying this is the permanent forever location. If this works, it makes money, and we can build up our recycle trust fund, make an investment elsewhere, and that's something we can consider another day. This is about today. This is about revenue today. This is not going to, I received an email today from a resident that this is going to put a demise to our Main Street. In my opinion, this is not on our Main Street. This is in an industrial zone, in an industrial area of town, which it is. It's an industrial zone on First Street. No disputing that. DPW, as Mr. Dale mentioned earlier, I don't think it's possible. We can look at the entrance into the yard for the trucks, so less of the flow in the yard. I think wetlands is an issue there, and something that can be looked into. Police station, I don't support knocking that building down, because all those other ideas are major overhead, major capital to get to the point. This is minimal to try to see it and see if it operates successfully. That's where we are today. So I need a motion. If someone would make a motion to approve the recycling center as discussed.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I have discussion.
Yes.
We're told to go out and do our homework and to seek information. Well, since June 7th, I have asked for a site plan of the DPW yard, and I still don't have it. I think we toured it. I believe there is an area there that, if we explored it, could be used. There's a hill there, there's an old building there. We eventually might be able to take over the shooting range. When I just today got the 9 dumpsters that will be put back there, I never before today was told there would be 9. I didn't know the oil tank would be there. I absolutely am opposed to that being there, and I think 9 of these 8 by 23 foot dumpster type things. Plus, there was talk of moving a trailer that's over on the DPW yard there. There'll have to be a facility for the person who runs it. I've never seen the cost exactly. It'll be some retiree, but we don't know the cost of what it'll be. There's been talk about a gate coming in on 2nd Street. I'm totally against that. We went and measured the lot, and we marked off 75, 100, and 125 feet. If anyone is going to make a motion for this, I don't want it 1 inch beyond 75 feet, and I want no oil there, because I don't know if it's 300 feet from the river, but that should not be put there. And again, I don't think we've got the information, or do I think we should all have to go after information? I think it should be, the details should be asked, and everybody should get them.
Okay, there's a motion on the table, and we can see how that motion moved. The motion is for approval of recycling center.
Well, would somebody please tell me how much of that parking lot that motion would entail?
Well, the motion is not specific to that. The motion is specific to approving it based on what's allowed back. You're not exceeding, preferably not exceeding 75 feet.
Yeah, that's preferably. Believe me, you
I
come
put
back.
that in the motion.
That's not
You made the motion. I asked for it.
I made the motion.
Okay. So your motion stands. There was a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I have to agree with Linda about the oil. I don't think we should put the oil tank there, because we're using the oil tank at the DPW for our oil changes, where we have it now. Okay, and I don't think we need 2 areas. The guy who's picking up the oil, he's not going to run to 2 spots.
Okay.
I think if we take it out, were you thinking about taking it out of the DPW?
If you wanted to, per DEP, that it's a 250-gallon tank, and that's got to be set into a 300-gallon.
Right, got it.
Just in case it does break.
Correct.
It'll fill in there, and it'll go nowhere but in there.
Is that the way it is now?
No.
It's not that way now at DPW?
That's what she said. If we move it, we're going to have to do that.
Yeah, but I don't think if we move it, I don't think we should, I think if
If
you
it's
want to
there, we're
contain
gonna
it,
still-
contain the one at the DPW, because you guys are doing oil changes.
And it's still got to go in a pit.
Right.
Because it's doing it until we find out what
Okay.
we're doing.
All right, let me ask this. Councilman Yance, you amend your motion to approve it, keeping the oil component of it at the DPW yard.
I absolutely agree with you, Mike.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you amended your motion, amend your second.
I will.
Could we also talk about the batteries? I don't
What
think
was
we need a
needed?
30-yard dumpster for batteries.
It's not.
Again, that's the design.
I know, we can
We're not
design it,
approving,
okay.
we're not approving number of dumpsters, we're not approving length, we're approving concept of getting this done. All right, any further discussion? Need a roll call?
Well, this is what we should, well, what are the stipulations on this now?
This is,
Just the oil?
yeah,
That's 75 feet.
no, that was not.
That was
75.
75 feet was what you had in your paper napkin 2 meetings ago. You told people in town here, we're going to come out 75 feet.
Right.
And we're going to come into one first.
We're coming in First
75
Street,
feet
I
is out
don't
of
agree,
picture.
there's no driveway on Second Street, right, we'll agree to that.
Correct.
Right, I mean, the motion wasn't being that specific, but that was on the record.
Ted, what's the minimum that's needed?
I never set up a recycling center, but what I did was I went and got Mike Fitzpatrick. I took him over there, and we looked at all the locations, and he said, if you do the math and you figure this out, you are never going to facilitate that room at 75 feet. It's got to be a minimum of 100.
So Galaxy Recycling said 75 was sufficient. So, okay, if you're more comfortable with approving this based on the motion of 75 feet, I'm going by what the recycling center, general,
Let's not make a motion for something that's just a motion, but it's never gonna work. Because we need the money, and we need it this year.
Correct.
But the guy who's picking it up said 75.
I don't like the location just as much as John doesn't like it. None of us like that location. If 75 works, let's push for the 75. But if we absolutely must go to 100 to make this thing work,
Right, then here's what we do. Let's get approval tonight to begin at 75. If we prove, then we'll have to come back and revisit it to extend to 25 feet. But the recycling center company who's going to be doing this said, when he saw the mark out, that 75 was more than adequate. Number one. Number two, if we needed to go more, that tune changed, then Mark, to your point, digging back into the First Street side of the hill can get us 25 feet as opposed to coming back into the parking lot. That would be the other alternative. Get rid of that last there.
Yeah, I think going in the other direction to gain our footage is the way to go. The 75-foot mark in the parking lot, that should be the starting point and working across.
Okay.
I agree with that.
The conversation that Mr. Fitzpatrick brings up, I thought was a valid point. You have those dumpsters, I don't know the exact footage right off the top. 34 feet is it, 30 yard, or what was that?
30 yard is 23 by 8.
Okay, 23 feet. When you put all those dumpsters in there, and you get people that are either opening up car doors or opening it up, and they open that up, you need room for that distance also. So you're not just taking an 8-foot car, you have to add a distance to all of this, so these people can flow out of there, because otherwise, you're gonna have a condo line of people stalled in your, basically, because the council seems to be that we're gonna have one way in and one way out, coming in blocked, because they can't get out.
But the roadway can be designed in a way with the person who's working the yard to control the traffic flow in and out. So to get this on the books and get this going, Mr. Councilman Yancey, you amend your motion to state approval of the recycling center at the senior center, not to encroach more than 75 feet of the existing parking,
so
including the removal of no oil except leaving the oil at DPW. Councilman D'Amato, you amend your second.
and the batteries,
Is there any further discussion?
Yes. I
well,
have
smaller, that's an argument likes to add small battery dumpster.
Yeah.
to that. You don't need a 30-yard battery
I
dumpster.
don't think that has to be in the motion.
I think we can work that out with the dumpster people. I agree.
Let's do that, yeah. I mean, the Riggs has 2 pallets over there.
Okay.
I
I'm sorry,
have
Councilman
I have
Yancey.
2 comments. Number one, again, we are not doing the legwork, we're putting the cart before the horse. I talked to Mark, and when we just got them today, the dimensions, and I understand there's a computer program where you could just feed all this information in, and it would print out your recycling yard. Not just walking around looking here and there. We would see what we could put there and what would fit. My other comment is my question is to Fred. And I know you were given information about when the senior citizen was approved and the variances on the planning board. And I thought that it said that the senior center had to have 48 parking spaces. Actually, they had to have 84, but it was reduced to 48. Did that have any impact on taking away these parking places?
No, because when you have a government-owned type of operation, like a building, you have pretty much the jurisdiction to do what you need to do. I understand your concern, and I went back and looked at it, but you also have the discretion, as long as it's for a government purpose, to utilize the facility for what you want to use it for. I did see references, like you said, for parking. Now, it's a policy decision. I don't think it becomes a legal decision. In other words, from a legal perspective, you can do this. Policy, if you say, look, I'm concerned about the parking or whatever it is, that's within your purview. But from what I saw, but it's government-owned, it's the municipality's property. So as long as it's for a municipal-oriented use, you have the discretion to use it in the way that which you desire. But again, like I said, you can certainly, that doesn't stop you from having a policy that you want to have. And I did see, certain types of indicators about parking spaces.
Any further discussion?
Yes.
I think we really should look further into it by doing it by the DPW area. I think we're rushing into this again, and I think we should do it down there. Mr. Dale brought up some good information tonight, and I think we should further investigate it down there. I'm all for the recycling center, but not by the senior center.
Problem is that it's going to cost more than $21,000. So it costs us a heck of a lot more doing that. That's the problem.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Yasti,
Yes.
Conklin,
Yes.
Tomato,
Yes.
Toots,
No.
Schiffman,
Yes.
Shortman.
No.
Reintroduction of bond ordinance 10, 2012. Bond ordinance providing payment for various road improvements. The motion to introduce the ordinance 10, 2012 by title, second and final reading to be July 24th. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We're introducing by title the bond ordinance to pave municipal roads as previously discussed. Is there any further discussion? I need a roll.
Councilmembers Conklin,
Can we just name those roads, please? We have it here, just in reference to.
The roads are
Rathman.
Jeffrey Drive, Mills Road, Rathman Road, and Morse Lake Road from Rathman to Wade Vista.
Okay,
Yes.
yes. Yes, sir.
Tomato,
Yes.
Toots,
Yes.
Schiffman,
What's this for, just reading the,
introduce the ordinance by title.
Introduction.
I'm going to recuse on this.
Shortman,
Yes, but I have a question. Why does it say but not limited to?
Well, normally on bond ordinances, you need to identify. At times, you could go back and amend if you wanted to change the ordinance. Or if you come in under budget, you know, then
Okay. Yes.
Yasti,
Yes.
and that would be a bond ordinance providing for various road improvements in and by the Borough of Bloomingdale and County of Passaic, New Jersey, appropriating $450,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $426,000 bonds or notes of the borough to finance part of the cost thereof.
Thank you. Item E, authorization to move playground equipment from Sloan Park to Walter T. Bergen. At our last meeting, we accepted the amended lease agreement with the Board of Ed, as they accepted the idea of moving the Sloan Park playground, as we all agreed, moving active recreation out of the park to the placement at Walter T. Bergen. We have received the price to date for this, to disassemble this, $1,000 from Fitzpatrick and Son. And I'd like a motion to authorize that. That'll be paid for by the county grant that we have on Walter T. Bergen for the installation of a playground in that facility. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmembers Tomato,
Yes.
Toots,
Yes.
Schiffman,
Yes.
Shortman.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes. Discussion in regard to county grant for flooding. I just wanted to bring everyone up to speed. Administrators have been attending numerous meetings to keep me informed on this. The county received a community block development grant of $12 million for flooding. Turns out in excess of 50% is going to Inner City for major flood repairs and buyouts. The rest of it is being shared by other municipalities. We, through the efforts of Mr. Administrator, tried to see if we can help pay down through the county grant some of our Sloan Park improvements, flooding mitigation, and the answer was no. They are again doing Blue Acres work mostly. One thing we were able to get them to agree to, which is ironic because it's county property, but they agreed based on Ted's pushing, was to repair once and for all that storm drain that goes from the front of the post office under Hamburg, under Van Riper Electric out the back of the river. That is broken, clogged, and causes a lot of part of our major flood. So the good news is we're getting that piece funded. The bad news is we were not eligible. It's not a reimbursable type grant.
And I'm waiting for the county engineer who's doing this design, because it really is a county project. And, but we will be awarded, or I should say, we will mutually be awarded to get this repair done, which is a benefit.
It's a benefit, and it would have been on the radar if we didn't raise
What
that.
about the clogged drain on Glenwell Ave? Glenwell Ave?
Uh,
What was the drain that went nowhere?
The county was up there, they made the repair, and she was in the council. Remember, she thanked me for.
I That one's done. Okay, thank you. Status of liens on property for work on DPW. We alluded to this earlier. We do have a few, I'd say half a dozen.
I'd say 12.
12?
12.
That,
over the last
we have
15
bills, our DPW has prepared for work done on various properties. Again, mostly these are in foreclosure or vacant homes. What I had asked the administrator to do, through the help of some of our tax office staff, was to, before we file a lien, last year we authorized the prior attorney to do these liens, and they were never done. So before I have Mr. Semmer begin that process, because remember we discussed last year, for those who were here, it's a $180 bill, and it costs us more than that to put the lien on the house. You know, what's cost effective? So, and then after, if you remember, that's when our former attorney said he would do it for nothing, and it didn't get done. So, what I asked Mr. Administrator to do through the help of one of our tax persons was to reach out to the mortgagees, bill the mortgagees initially, because I spoke to other property maintenance officers in other towns, that's what they do. They reach out to the mortgagees, even in a foreclosure status, and very often they just pay the small note rather than having to go through a lien process. So that's where we are now. It's been about a week and a half into it, and I'll have a report at the next meeting on our success. If we don't have success, then the governing body is going to decide what we're going to do. I mean, what could be considered litigation? We have to negotiate with you. Is it in contract, out of contract? How much would it cost us so we can see it's cost effective? We'll let you know. Okay? It's not a lot of money, but it's something we want to put on.
There's 12, only 12? I think there's 12. I don't think
I had a stack on my kitchen table when
Are we still doing them now this year, or?
Excuse me?
Are we doing them now this year?
We haven't done because of just, manpower and all those kind of issues. And the issue, this is obviously the time that occurs when the season is upon us, and then you have you guys rightly on vacation and whatnot. It's a little different.
And we have some, properties, one off of Greenland, that's back and forth here, have hours of work tied up, corresponding back and forth to try to resolve these. We just don't go away and resolve it.
All right, moving along. I need adoption of resolution 212, 6.13, paying the bills. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Need a roll call.
Councilmembers Toots.
Yes.
Schiffman.
Yes.
Shortman. Yes. Yasti.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes.
Then I need adoption of resolution 2012, 6.14, amending the temporary budget, as we do pretty much every month until we adopt. You all can copy on the amendments. It's just a matter of keeping enough money in various departments to pay the bills. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Schiffman.
Yes.
Shortman.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes.
Toots.
Yes.
Then I need a resolution 2012, 6.15, honoring Bloomingdale resident Thomas Tracy for his achievement as an Eagle Scout. I will be moving this resolution this evening. I will be presenting his resolution at his Eagle Scout ceremony on July 7th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Shortman.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes.
Toots.
Yes.
Schiffman.
Yes.
Just discussion on a letter received from the National Honor Society in regards to helping with community activities dated June 13th, addressed to Mr. Ehrenberg. The new 2012-13 officers of the Butler chapter of the National Honor Society during a recent meeting discussed the possibility of community service activities in Bloomingdale. We're willing to help with anything from cleaning parks to volunteering at the animal shelter. We can contribute to community activities. If there are any ways for us to improve the Bloomingdale community, please contact our chapter president, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously there's no formal action to be taken because that is a no-brainer.
I have forwarded that offer to Lisa Perry, and I don't know what the response was back, but we are trying to make a relationship.
Okay, Gene, if you would re-forward to Lisa, just say if anybody wanted to follow up, and Mr. Al Gallagher, because we have some park painting or something we can get help there too. Okay, thank you. Adoption of resolution 2012 6.16, authorizing submittal of our annual recycling grant application. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Now, what is our normal revenue from our grant recycling? Grant?
It went from 4,000 to 10.
based on increase in our tonnage from,
Not just ours, but for more businesses in the town that we go to, that private haulers that we report to.
so becoming more diligent on the issue has increased our revenue by 6,000 just on our grant we get every year. Good. Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Yasti.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes.
Toots.
Yes.
Schiffman.
Yes.
Shortman.
And then I need adoption of resolution 2012-617, approval of renewal 2012-2013 liquor licenses. You've all been copied on them, the Selena Inc., which is Lena's, Stumble Inn, and Turnpike Liquors, and Trey Chambrero, bless you, and one, Councilman, is that your name? Okay. And then the Liquor City, Callaway Place, which is Bloomingdale Liquors, and Bloomingdale Fire Department. I need a motion for that resolution approving these licenses.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Conklin.
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes.
Toots.
Yes.
Schiffman.
Yes.
Shortman.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes.
Discussion authorization to purchase a police vehicle. You've all been copied on certification of funds, or again, a bond ordinance from 2004 it appears, where there is money in vehicle bonds already being funded, already being paid, and I'll defer this to someone. Councilman Mata, is there a committee, or Ted, whoever wants to.
When we were in the budget meeting, Dean Lurch was there. Obviously, the borough has had some trouble producing enough revenue on our operating budget to replace police cars. The borough physically has not purchased a police car in 4 years. The chief supplied a report that we have 6 vehicles that have over 100,000 miles. The functional life of a police car, I speak from some experience of this, past 105,000 miles. For that purpose of regular patrol, really renders the vehicle useless because we put our meters on ours to test that out. We had 300,000 miles on it by then. We had the hour meters in. So if you purchase an SUV, you can make that a capital purchase and extend that for 5 years because you only have 5 years of service. So the suggestion was to look at going with 5-year SUV vehicles. Ford is coming out with a new product. It's an all-wheel drive. It's basically a Ford Explorer that's been reconditioned and designed for police use. The Crown Vics are gone. There are no more Crown Vics. It's either Dodge or the new Ford product that's coming out.
Any discussion then?
Why wouldn't we seek a donation for a police vehicle?
We've done that the last 4 years, successfully done that.
Yes.
But I think those, we've used those sources.
Have we tried in 4 years?
We've received a vehicle for the last 4 years that was not at the borough's expense, and we leave it at that.
Well, I don't think it would hurt to contact people who've been generous in the past and ask them again.
Most of the donations came from used, almost,
That's
100,000
not what
Mark
I'm
County.
looking
No. There was one donated last year, and the donator asked to be made anonymous. So I don't want to get into that, and that we cannot go back to that person.
There's no one else you know that has donated in the past?
No, it's only been that.
Okay, all right.
Any further discussion?
I think that we should hold off until we get a budget in place on this.
Does the purchase of this vehicle affect the budget?
It doesn't. There's a bond in place already that we are already paying on
You're still
taxes.
paying back.
No,
So it's one of those things. You kick the can down the road long enough, then you need two of it.
But the bond's already funded.
And that's where we are.
Right.
Is this for two of them?
It says vehicles too.
We haven't bought one in 4 years. This money's already funded, so in the budget preparation, talking about bond repayments, it's all in there, you're already paying the debt on it.
The other issue is the longer you keep these vehicles, and you really accelerate the repair budget.
We're paying interest on the
Well,
money.
you pay, see, if you carry on a bond anticipation note, each year you're paying interest on it. You have up to 10 years to be permanent financing on something. So this was a 2004 bond. So 2014, we have to permanent fund, go to permanent bond. Where you're paying principal. That's how we bought the garbage truck. On all the money that was on 5 years. All before our time?
It's a bond, so it's already in place that they're already paying off. Principal and interest on those bonds. What
So,
we're
okay,
paying.
this is coming from the chief, I know you've been asking for 4 years. It's not affecting the operating budget, you're already paying it down. Yeah, it's like the garbage truck put off for years and years, it was already funded, I should have found out that.
Did we get a new car last year?
Yes, we got one.
One last year.
From speaking to Joe, from what I understand, he has to get 112 in order to keep the cycle fresh, and he hasn't been there.
What's the timeline of order? Is there a deadline, or is this like going through?
State contract through Warren.
Actually, this opportunity presented itself there again to the Morris County Co-op. It's already bid. I don't have to go out, put a bid package, go through the whole
Design
process.
specs.
And specs, which was a tedious process for the sanitation truck, challenged a lot of people. So I would prefer to stay with the county co-op bid and move forward if the council will consider approving.
What's the cost of this?
I don't have the exact figure, I'd have to look
It's
that up,
in here.
but I
No,
believe
that's the available funds in the bond.
it's broken down by,
The bond account budget is $73,213.
That's the cost of the two.
Cost of the vehicle is $25,543.
Right?
Per.
That's all outfit?
No, actually, and then you add all the design, soup to nuts, 28,701. All your money.
That's to include the lights, and then there's more out there that goes on that's in Joe's budget.
So is anyone considering, do you want to authorize one?
I'll make the motion for one.
For one? There's a motion on the table to authorize one vehicle as per the chief's request. Do I have a second? Again, already funded, not affecting your budget.
can I ask the question, was the authorization for one just a current status, or is there any, that's it?
What do you mean?
The original request was for 2 vehicles.
Correct.
So we're going to fund one. Is there any consideration to fund a second one at some point, or was it one?
Sure, at some point. I just don't think you'll get you through.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, that's fine. Good.
Okay.
I mean, we're,
Probably right.
what drives me nuts is, we
No
have,
money.
we have, yeah, we're paying on money that's just sitting there. Why is it sitting there since 2000?
We should, because governing bodies didn't take action to go purchase the things. And you're actually paying interest on
But
things
you
you're
can
using.
turn around and take that bond and give it back.
You did. Last year, the governing body wiped out all their old bond ordinances except for a little bit of capital, a little bit of vehicle. Last year, the governing body wiped out that every penny. So that, and that's where you go when you have all of a sudden the water line break, they have no bond for infrastructure. You go to those things, you know, tap an emergency appropriation and run out of money and borrow money at the end of the year. That happened last year. They wiped out everything. But finance was able to convince the Ted to leave vehicles, the garbage trucks were coming, and to leave a little bit of capital for the storm repair, things like that. And most of them, last year, the governing body wiped out.
I mean, a bond from 2004, what are we paying on interest?
It's an end, you reissue a 1-year note. You know, it's 1% interest on a 1-year note, and then after 10 years, it becomes permanent bond. I mean, I don't want to speak out of my realm, because, you know, Sherry would be the better person, how much you paid since 7 years.
No, I'm not asking that, it's crazy that you have a 2004 bond that you're paying interest for 2004, and here we are.
You're absolutely right. But the reason being is at one point, a governing body funded it with the intention of doing this, and then never funded the project. And never canceled the debt either. Last year, all the debt was canceled except for a couple like this. This one and I think one for utility. Okay, there's a motion on the table for one vehicle per the chief's request. Did I get a second? Do I have a second on that? Second. And is there any further discussion? I need a roll call.
Councilmembers Tomato,
Yes.
Toots, Schiffman,
Yes.
Shortman,
Abstain.
Yasti,
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Okay, the next item, I need an adoption, a motion to adopt resolution, it's not an ordinance as per the agenda, Resolution 2012 6.12. This resolution is designating, I got 18, Resolution 2012 6.18. This resolution is authorizing and designating Block 73, Lot 67, also known as Avalon Bay, as an area in need of redevelopment, which again was approved by the governing body in theory, approved by the planning board at the last meeting, and now we're authorizing this designation. And what happens now, everyone? There will be a public hearing on the plan sometime soon at the planning board, with a plan of us introducing the ordinance on July 17th, and then adopting the final ordinance on July 31st. I have a little more discussion, but first let me get a motion on it.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Any further discussion?
Meetings on the 17th?
We're doing that later. We have to change our, because of timing on it's not on the agenda, it's on non-agenda items to change our schedule.
Does this include the Riverwalk with Burgess?
No.
No.
No, that will come, but we're going to add that later
Okay.
too,
All right.
as a non-agenda item. But we're in the discussion period, and just so everyone in the public is aware, what we're doing here is designating a section of Union Ave as a redevelopment zone because the governing body and the planning board feel this is in need of redevelopment. The plan right now is specifically on one lot and block for Avalon Bay because there's potentially something coming on the horizon on Avalon Bay. But the grand plan is to, hopefully next year, if funding prevails, declare Union Ave from Van Dam to the Horse Farm as redevelopment, and all of Main Street as a redevelopment zone. And what this does, it allows the governing body to do a few things that entices development. We have 287 coming through our town. We are 98% residential tax base. We need to do something. Our tax rate is high to entice developers to come in. And a redevelopment is one way to do that because it allows a town to overlay various zoning, to allow things that are smart for the town to occur. It allows the town to introduce things that are called pilot programs where the town can see better revenues from the tax base from growth. So it's, in my opinion, starting smart growth and catalysts we need. So here tonight we're authorizing, per again, planning board's approval as well, designating this lot block as a redevelopment zone. So is there any further discussion? I need a roll call.
Councilmembers Toots,
Yes.
Schiffman,
Excuse?
Shortman,
Yes.
Yasti,
Yes.
Conklin,
Yes.
Tomato.
Yes. And just for the record, Councilman Schiffman, who was recused from the entire Avalon Bay process because he lives within 200 feet, continues to recuse on the issue, just so the public's aware. The next item I need is a motion to approve a professional service agreement with Burgess Associates, who is now going to develop the redevelopment plan. The governing body has approved, and a maximum not to exceed $10,000. And the proposal came in at a cost of $4,750 to develop this plan. We need action taken tonight, so this plan can be done in time for a hopefully July 12th planning board meeting. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
This is recommended by the borough.
Yes, thank you. Motion by Yazdi, second?
Second.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Just one suggestion.
Sure.
There's a timeline here
Yeah.
to certainly complete this process. And I spoke to Mr. Burgess, and he believes he can get this done because, there's summer meetings scheduled for both the planning board and the council.
Right.
This is an opportune time to try to get this done. I also think it's an emergent type of expenditure. So I just would like to ask if there'd be an amendment that, in the event he indicates that Mr. Burgess, he cannot get it done, that the administrator would be able, in the same terms, to hire another professional planner that would
Not to
represent
exceed.
this, not to
Okay.
exceed this amount, just in case over the next few days, because that office is going to be closed next week for a few days.
All right,
So I want to get it done.
So who made the motion?
I did.
So, Councilman, yes, you amend your motion to authorize purchase at cost of $47.50, and if unable to complete in this important time frame, you have the authority, administrative authority, to hire another planner at the same rate, not to exceed $47.50.
So,
That's amended, and who made the second?
I did.
May you amend that second? Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Schiffman. I'm sorry.
Hughes.
Shortman.
Yes.
Yasti.
yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Tucci.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, item 16, we do have a lot of non-agenda items that I'm going to announce and open to the public if they want to speak to these non-agenda items, and then everybody will take its formal action. First one is, that was on the consent agenda. This one. We are going to have on the agenda a motion to change our July meeting schedule. We had, I'm so sad, we had originally wanted to go one meeting, July 24th. We're going to cancel that meeting, and we need to go July 17th and July 31st. Because we need to do this for the redevelopment. So that's one item. Second item is we received a request from the fire department, and we want to get this on for a new membership for an individual. We have 4 tax resolutions. One for the governing body to authorize the tax office to get out estimated billings for the August quarter. And we have 3 tax title liens that we need to resolve. And then one other item is we're going to introduce by title. I think you had walked out, Fred, on this before. At the recommendation of our code enforcement or our building officer, introduced by title, we currently have an ordinance that does not charge a fee for temporary CO. We have fees for permanent COs, but nothing for temporary, and then nothing for renewals of temporary COs. And with some things on the horizon, we suggest we amend these. So what we're going to do tonight is introduce by title, amending section 11, 1.2 of our code, again, it's ordinance 11, 1.2, section 9. We want to add an item, the fee for temporary certificate of occupancy shall be $50 and $35 for renewal of the same. So we're going to introduce that by title. The other item is we're going to authorize Burgess, the same planner, we better not get the river study done before the redevelopment plan does. We're going to authorize that proposal that was presented and entirely paid for by the county grant. And then item 3 we're going to do is declare an emergency situation on the DPW well monitoring. I request the administrator get us a funding source, check with the DEP, and check with the prior administrators. I think there's funding, and there was something done on this in the past. So, it's a lot for the public. We have changing our meetings, fire department members, tax title liens, introduce a fee ordinance for temporary COs, authorize Riverwalk study, and declare an emergency on DPW well monitoring. All that said, I need now a motion to open to public comment for non-agenda items. So,
Second.
all in favor? Anyone wishing from the public to speak to any of these items, I will be more than happy to go over them again, if you do, except for you. But, please do, say your name and address for the record.
Well, Ryan Smith, 45 Hilltop
Yes.
Terrace. I actually had a question.
Yeah.
It's not really a non-agenda item.
Okay.
It's like something that I want to ask you guys.
Yeah, sure.
Is that possible?
Yeah, sure.
Participating in the Great New Jersey Country Bike Ride, basically a bicycle marathon.
Okay.
50 miles from Morristown to Wayne, September 22nd. I'm actually also asking a couple of cops to maybe they get involved.
Okay.
I was wondering if you guys could make a donation if possible. We don't have to discuss any details about it yet, but until you know now I'm doing it.
Okay.
We get sponsors for businesses, whatever, fire department and stuff. I was wondering with the town, could sponsor me $5, 50, whatever you guys want to do. So I'm putting that out there right now.
No, thanks. You know what, Ryan, here, here's my email. Send me an email with all the specifics.
Yeah,
I'll forward it to the governing body. There's 2 ways we can do it.
That's for MS. And
There's a couple ways. The governing body can either do personally themselves a donation. That's really about it. We can't see, we can only, we can't do that. Or Or there is, if I had Ryan and some of his colleagues do peanut day, I would maybe donate to MS, peanut grant. So send me the email, we'll get back to you right away. Thanks. Thanks. Ryan. Anyone else on a non-agenda item? See no one, motion to close?
So moved.
Second. And all in favor? All right, thank you. So now, first item, I need a motion to change our meetings, canceling July 24th, adding July 17th as a special meeting, which will only be for the introduction. It will be a 4-minute meeting to introduce the ordinance of redevelopment by title and then final section of our regular business meeting on July 31st. We need those new dates because that's the number of days we need to advertise and adopt.
So moved.
That would be the only item on that July 17th meeting.
Still moved.
What, we limit ourselves? No, I know.
You can always,
You can always advertise it as a work session. Doesn't have to be special.
continue your own campaign as far as publication. If we continue to count it out days. Count them out now, change it.
You don't fish it, we can't fish.
You can do it earlier.
So we're okay.
You could leave it alone.
No, you don't have time to advertise. So why don't we go, we have to go after the
24th was already advertised.
Why don't we go to 6th?
You have to have it in yourself that Friday. Oh, so when you have to send it,
I'd rather be about 25 minutes.
I know that. All right, you know what, we're gonna move along, come back to this, because James just got to verify the number of dates that we'll advertise. Okay, the next item has to be after the 12th planning board public hearing, and we don't know yet. Can't be before the
We have a
12th.
special meeting the same night of the planning board meeting, we could have done that. Could advertise this back then.
Good. Okay, we'll come back to that. The next item is I need an authorization to approve membership of Kathleen Wakeman to the Bloomingdale Borough Department. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Then I need resolution 2012 6.19, authorization of the governing body giving the tax office the authority to issue out estimated billings for the August quarterly bill. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second. Any Need a second?
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Councilmember Shortman. Yes. Yasti.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Demoto.
Yes.
Toots. Schiffman.
Yes.
Guys, there are 3 tax title liens certificates that have somebody had paid the outstanding liens on these. So I'll move for a motion to authorize 3 of them. We'll do them in one motion. Tax title lien 11-00009, 11-09-0003, and 11-00021. Again, they are liens that have been picked up, that have been outstanding in the borough. Redeemed. Do I have a motion, please?
I'm sorry, what was the?
So moved.
Second.
Tax sale liens, just redemption.
Oh, no, gotcha.
Any further discussion?
Councilmember Yasti.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
Demoto.
Yes.
Toots.
Yes.
Schiffman.
Yes.
Shortman.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We're good? All right, so now I need a motion, that actually was on the table, I should have rescinded it, but let's start fresh. Motion to cancel our July 24th meeting, why don't we schedule a work session for the 17th in case there's more, which hopefully there's not, and then a regular business meeting on the 31st, so I have that motion.
John, we have that issue with work sessions and voting.
Well, it's not, we have the ability to.
Put in there that everybody may take action.
Well, we don't say they may not be action, I don't know about that. Something that a certain council person likes. All right, so that's the motion. Any
What
further?
would be the time of the meeting, Mayor?
7 p.m.
Well, so moved.
I think I have a motion. I'm sorry. Demond, Councilman, you move that?
Yes.
Seconded by Asti. Any further discussion? Any roll call?
Councilmembers Conklin.
Yes.
Demoto.
Yes.
Toots.
Yes.
Schiffman.
Yes.
Shortman.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes.
Okay, now I need a motion to introduce by title. And, sorry? Yeah. Okay. Introduced by title, ordinance 11, 2012, section 9, adding item D, that we will be instituting a fee for a temporary certificate of occupancy of $50 and $35 for renewal of the same. Second and final reading on July 17th. So it's you already have it.
Sure.
Okay. Second and final on July 17th.
Yeah.
We already have that. Okay, do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Thank you, Dan, for bringing this to our attention. And roll call.
Councilmembers Demoto.
Yes.
Toots.
Yes.
Schiffman.
Yes.
Shortman.
Yes.
Yasti.
Yes.
Conklin.
Yes.
I need a motion to authorize the professional planner's proposal, consultant services for Riverwalk feasibility study and plan with Burgess Associates in the amount of $30,000, again, for the record, to be paid entirely, 100% by the St. County Open Space grant we received for this. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, for sure you'd make that. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmembers Toots.
Yes.
Schiffman.
Yes.
Shortman.
Yes.
Yasti.
No.
Conklin.
Yes.
Demoto.
Yes.
Okay, then I need a motion to declare our DPW well monitoring situation an emergency. And approve upon condition of certifying funds an amount of not to exceed $18,500 for the monitoring thereof on the basis that Mr. Administrator checks for Superfund for reimbursement, funding in general, and Madam Clerk checks fire administrators because I have to do something out there. So do I have that motion, please?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further?
Yes.
Yes.
For the How long does this monitoring have to be now?
Until resolved.
So that could be years.
It could absolutely be years.
Basically, this isn't even the cleanup, this is just the monitoring.
This is to identify
How
How
many
deep-
parts per million we have.
how deep a problem we have and what the conditions are. Depending, I asked all these questions today from our hired retained professional. How long is this going to be? What would this cost? Is this the cleanup? I said, well, when we went in there, removed the DPW garage, hogged all that material out, would that alter this? She said, we won't know until we do the test. So I'm like, okay. I'll go get the funding approved by the council.
How deep is that monitoring?
I think it specifies, to be honest with you, I didn't have time to read the whole detail, but it goes a distance. Pick up groundwork.
Samples from 7 monitoring wells.
I think it specifies how deep it is, but I don't know.
I can't believe they don't have any records of this. There's 7 monitoring wells on the property.
No,
This is what they're proposing.
You're gonna have to.
Is there any monitoring wells on the property still?
That's what I question. I recall that there were, I recall that we were told we had a clean bill of health, and we stopped them, former councilman in the room, and all field that were shaking their heads, yes.
Matter of fact,
Vividly remember this, that we got.
Are the monitoring wells still on the property?
No, we got the blessing that we can close the monitoring wells.
The 2 houses on Union Avenue had contamination in both wells. They were put on public water cap, and the DEP gave us a clean bill of health.
We stopped monitoring.
They said,
We're
done.
sure.
The plume didn't spread, and it was actually dissipated.
I thought we objected that.
So we need to do the research.
Excuse me? I don't think it was DPW wells.
Yep.
So,
DEP cleared it.
We're-
It says we're done.
We're done.
I remember when we got,
When-
last year we didn't have to do
So
monitoring.
technically, what I'm hearing is this is new. This is a new issue.
Yeah.
No, this is, no, we got a letter from the DEP that says,
They never closed the books on it.
Well, they all of a sudden went looking,
here,
No, they don't have any records of closing it out.
and yet you're the ones.
right, no records of groundwater delineation or remediation were found during file. Protection of volatile organic compounds were found, but not above the standards as noted by Dewberry Goodtime. That's former engineer.
Okay, so,
Okay.
not to belabor this, I guess what I'm asking the council to do is to declare.
Yeah, that's the motion. I think.
Okay, but I guess we'll sort out the.
My concern is if we have prior insurance policies, we could get coverage for this. I don't know how far back it goes, but, and going forward, we're a member of the Environmental Joint Insurance Fund. And we really should put them on notice that we have this
And
fund.
if this is, as I think it was, a prior situation, that the 2 former council people nodding that it wasn't resolved, 2002, 3, 4-ish, in that range, I think we began monitoring when I was on the council, and when you guys continued to serve or began to serve, we got the clean bill of health, which would have been 6 or 7.
I think it was 06.
I think it was prior to my service, and I started January 1st,
Could have been
2006.
just prior.
Did we have any insurance coverage at that time?
Don't know.
I don't
Just,
know.
you were a member of the Joint Insurance Fund.
Yeah, I don't think we handled it that way.
But I'd be glad to submit that.
All right.
I'm the
Well, again,
attorney
motion to declare an emergency.
for the fund.
Fine.
The environmental fund. Those are the type of claims that they may be able to provide assistance with. We just don't know how bad or how long this is going to go on. So it's sounds like you're ready to yeah, this would be good.
Yeah, we're just doing a version, not, with the contingent that there is research on future projects and funding issue. Okay. But it just bothers me that, Glenn, if you want to look at that. Yes. Okay, any further discussion? Need a roll call on that?
Councilmember Schiffman?
Excuse me? Yes.
Shortman? Yes. Yasti?
Yes.
Conklin?
Yes.
Tomato?
Yes.
Toots? Yes.
All right, thank you. Need a motion to open late public comment?
So moved.
Second.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Jennifer Walkfield, 17 Cedar Street, Bloomingdale, New Jersey. You are paying for purchases supplying the municipality with a report as far as the Avalon Bay site is concerned. I would like to make sure that Burgess puts the correct county that Bloomingdale is in. We are in Passaic County, not Bergen or Hudson County, whatever they say. Because they screwed it up. I'd like to know if they are going to put in recent pictures, aerial pictures of the site, including the roadway that was dug by Avalon Bay to, when they went to cut down the trees. Because technically they weren't supposed to do that. And how it's designated as a redevelopment zone, there was nothing there. There was no abandoned building, there was no fire-burned building. Now all of a sudden it's being redevelopment. And I just don't like what's going on with this. I don't think it's fair to the rest of the taxpayers. I want to know what their tax liability is, Mr. Mayor. What's their total taxes that they are going to be paying on that site?
So not known until they build out
It
that.
has to be known, Mr. Mayor. Everybody knows what their tax bill is.
I mean, currently, as a vacant lot?
Yeah.
As a vacant lot, I believe they're paying,
$200,000?
no, 40, 50, 60,000?
Okay, and when it's built out, the
Their assessment for this year, what I can tell, is $2,475,000. That's their 2012
Vacant land.
vacant land assessment.
And they appeal it. So that would be about 60,000 now.
Okay. And when it is all built out, the estimated taxes for this?
Again, until you know the assessed value on it, I would guesstimate, but you can't hold me to it. Should I not?
I think what we could do though is, we're in the process of getting that information, an estimate from the tax assessor as to what the build out would be in the approximate assessment and the taxes that would yield.
And why are we rezoning Union Avenue when back in
Not rezoning. It's not an area in need of redevelopment.
area in need of
Let
redevelopment?
me ask you, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think from Van Dam to the horse run is an area in need of redevelopment?
It's in need of development, not redevelopment. There's nothing there. This is a word game that is being played.
Okay. Do
It's a word
you
game.
think from Van Dam to horse run needs to be developed?
Developed, yes, not redeveloped. There's nothing there to redevelop.
Do you think all of Main Street needs to be redeveloped?
Totally different situation.
Is
You're
that
talking
I'm
about
not saying
buildings
about
on Main
situation,
Street.
I'm asking the question.
Yes, and the funny thing is, with Main Street, I believe that it is the owners of the buildings that should be paying for it, not the taxpayers. Like what was done with the pavers on Main Street. That's the biggest joke going. We put down pavers, the taxpayers paid for it. They're not all the way down, they're breaking, they're damaged, and the taxpayers are still paying for it. So that was a joke. We could have done cement on those sidewalks at 1/10 the cost, all the way down. And as far as the statement being made by Ms. Huntley earlier about the $250,000 grant that we gave back, that grant was for putting sidewalks in from 2nd Avenue down to, what's the name?
Victor. Bob the Barber, past Bob the Barber?
No, on this side. On this side, to the fencing, the fence company. They did not want sidewalks. I went and spoke to them personally and asked them, because it was taking away their parking. And in order to keep businesses here, you have to adapt a business-friendly attitude.
That would affect the fireman's hall too, right?
And the gentleman who, or the people who own that house that's right next to the fireman's hall, they would have absolutely nowhere to park. That was why we gave it back, because it made no sense.
The house next to the farmer's hall has a driveway on the street next to it,
Yeah,
so they have a place to park.
well, at the time.
That's one of the places we should have the maintenance guy.
For the record.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. But that information will come. And also, Ms. Oldfield, there will be, on the redevelopment, public hearings, an ordinance introduction, an opportunity to...
Oh, I know, I'll be here.
And I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Can I make a comment about the sidewalk? Can I do that before you finish? When you went around and talked to the people about sidewalks, you should have talked to the residents that live off them streets that will actually walk on Hamburg Turnpike and go for walks. You would have got a different result than just talking to the businesses. Because I tell you, those sidewalks are horrendous, all the way up to the
There's no
building
sidewalk.
down. There's no sidewalk, you're correct. But the people that live in that area, including me, we go for walks all the time, me and my wife. It's dangerous to walk there. So the businesses should have been, other people should have been asked before the businesses.
It's in front of Borough Hall. It's from-
I know exactly.
We're talking about-
I know that.
We're talking about
That's right.
from
All
here
right.
down.
I know.
That's what I.
Yes, sir. How are you, Bernie?
Record.
Yes.
Bernie from 183 Reeve Avenue. The question that I have for all of you, and I want you to find this out from Burgess Associates, when we did the rezoning of the entire downtown and Union Avenue, they were the planners that were involved with that zoning. How come they didn't offer redevelopment zoning be put in place when we were spending the money to do all this major rezoning?
Because redevelopment is initiated by the governing body.
Again, they could have brought it out at that point in time. Now we're paying.
What year was that
twice.
done? What year was that done?
09.
In '09. Okay. Again, I wasn't here, I can't speak for the planner, why he didn't propose it, but I would ask, why did the governing body ask him to include it?
They knew the purpose behind it.
Okay, but the point
Because
is,
we already went from residential on Union Avenue to mixed use.
okay, but a redevelopment declaration is driven by the municipality. Correct.
It is
Correct.
approved by the
So
city.
it's
Yeah, and the other thing is, I mean, they're all interesting points, because first of all, I would say yes, your planner always should give you your options.
Right.
But I also want to
Like I
say,
said, I can't speak.
what the mayor's saying also is, this isn't really a rezoning, it's really supposed to be a planning tool ultimately, if it is approved, to give you options. So I would say, in my experience, it's always good to be apprised of those options, and I don't think until recently, this governing body was really apprised of that being an option, so you're probably right.
Well, and if I may, and I don't want to stop you from speaking, there's no more litigation, so I think I can say this. In 2009, Avalon Bay was in full-blown litigation. So I don't think the governing body at that time wanted to do anything to say, we want this, we redevelop. Now it has been, it's approved in here and coming our way, now we're going to make the best of it.
That's actually not the case.
Exactly.
That's not what was driving the zoning issue to begin with.
As far as being redeveloped.
Again, redevelopment at that point in time, we had gone through all our homework and our legwork in the downtown, as well as up here. We rezoned all the business zones in this town.
And the redevelopment is not changing any of that.
Well, no, the thing is,
It's
it
not
should have
changing
been,
zone.
no, it should have been brought to us
Yeah.
while we were doing it, so we're not paying.
And that's a valid question. It's a valid question.
And also, the good
Can't go by the past. This is a
Can't-
future.
good thing is, just if ultimately,
It's the same plan,
yeah,
but that's my
if
point.
ultimately you do elect to proceed with the redevelopment area, and again, it's more like an overlay, so I give you options. The law provides that those property owners who are benefited by that can be compelled or asked to reimburse us for these costs. So hopefully they won't be out of pocket, but it's my understanding that ultimately be reimbursed for that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much, Bernie. Anyone else wishing to speak to anyone? Seeing no one, do I have a motion to close? Do I have a second?
Second.
And all in favor? Okay. We'll have 4 matters of negotiations in executive session. Again, any action, consideration of executive session business will be allowed public comment, and then everybody's schedule is now July 17th and July 31st. Work session and regular meeting. We will now at 10:39